All right, attempt number 2 at this. Hopefully, this time it's going to work. Turns out that in the preview window on YouTube, it just says it's working, and then you have to press a specific button. So, apologies, folks. I thought I was talking to people for the last 5 minutes. No joke. I've actually been talking to people here for 5 minutes. I had the starting thing up for like 10 minutes, and it turns out I have to press a specific button here on YouTube as well for this to go live, which is YouTube. Anyway, welcome everybody. Sorry for the kind of quick start here. As I said, I kind of thought I was streaming already, but turns out that wasn't the case. Hi Merlin, hi Bitterlin, Bobby, Chicken Tender, welcome everybody. Yep, I guess I will have to say all the things I have said in the last 5 minutes because no one actually heard that. So I kind of want to get back into content creation a little bit more. I didn't really have the time to put out YouTube content consistently in the last 1 month. And I always had this internal struggle in me about streaming, especially on Twitch. Problem is that my schedule is super tight. As most of you know, I don't do this as a full-time occupation. So for me to do like 4 or 5 live streams a day or live streams a week, that's near impossible. And I felt like if I wanted to stream on Twitch, I need to maintain some sort of consistency, and I just probably couldn't do that. So the conclusion I came to is that I could try doing this mix of uploading YouTube videos and doing occasional YouTube streams so that there is like a consistent flow of content coming out, but I'm not actually obliged to stream 4 or 5 times a week, which is something I simply cannot fit into my schedule. And to kick this off, I thought it would be cool to have a bit of a QA session, a bit of a chat, and catch up on things. I don't know how long this is going to be. It kind of depends on us running out of topics to talk about. But I thought that this could be a cool thing, especially because ever since I stopped streaming on Twitch, I really wasn't giving any opportunities to people to just have casual conversations, kind of, or just talk about how things are going. So I figured it could be cool to just have this little chat, little discussions and stuff like that. Let me just check chat over here. This is the first time for me using this YouTube streaming thing, so if it's a little scrappy, I am apologizing in advance. Anyway, first things first, let me just check Reddit as well. I posted this on Reddit, so hopefully some people saw that too. There will be some show matches later today, by the way. We'll see if I end up casting some of that too. I might actually end up doing some casts after this. I don't know how I'll be feeling after, but anyway. So what's the deal with AoE2? Good starting question. So this is a very complex topic, but most of this comes down to the fact that I'm not doing this full time. If I was doing this full time, I could probably afford to split time between the two games. I genuinely love both AoE2 and AoE4. And back when AoE4 launched, I actually tried casting both, and I struggled. I struggled because some things are very similar yet slightly different, and I felt like I'm just making too many mistakes casting. When I was casting AoE2, I often called the Franks the French. Not a catastrophic thing, but it's not something that looks good. And I felt like being in both of these games and just doing both of them at the same time is hurting my ability to be good at either of those. So back when AoE4 launched, I just cast my ballot with AoE4 and said, look, I'm going to do AoE4 and I want to be good at this, as good as I can be. And I do not want to have this issue where I just start messing things up because I'm not putting all of my energy into AoE4, right? I still like AoE2. I occasionally do some casts as well, like guest casts here and there. Back in NAC5, NAC5? 4. NAC4, earlier this year, I was in Berlin. I got a guest cast at NAC. I did some guest casts with Memb as well in some of his previous events. And if someone just DM'd me saying, look, do you want to hop in for an AoE2 cast? I probably wouldn't say no. But right now, for me, content-wise, it's just a little too much. In general, as you see, I struggle to keep up with consistency even in AoE4, let alone splitting time between two games. And AoE2 in general is extremely time consuming because you have a lot of events, many of them overlapping with each other. When you look at the major AoE2 content creators, they spend 8 hours a day oftentimes casting 4, 5, 6 days a week. So if I did that, I just probably couldn't do anything else, not even AoE4. So for the time being, I'm kind of in a status quo with AoE2. I like it. I would love to do it every once in a while, but I just cannot commit much of an energy to it, especially because in many ways I found success in AoE4. I feel like I would just risk that if I started committing considerable energy to a game that I was definitely less successful in, I guess. So that's kind of what I have with AoE2. I actually checked out the brand new DLC. It looks pretty cool. I guess part of the story here is that in AoE2 now we have a bunch of new content, and I'm still kind of lagging behind on some of the new content. So I would need to learn the new civs there as well. Kind of just take a look at the new builds too. So I would also be a little sloppy doing commentary for those two. So that's kind of my mindset on AoE2 right now. I like it. I would love to do some stuff every once in a while, but I just feel like committing considerable energy to it is just unrealistic for me right now. So YouTube would just be AoE4? That's an interesting question, and the answer is probably no. So AoE4 is what this channel is mostly followed for, and this is always an interesting debate. I've actually taken a look at many content creators, talk about Fitzbro, talk about Drongo, how they handle diversifying games, because I'm definitely interested in numerous games. If you've been following my Twitter, which you definitely should in case you haven't done so already, I've been very intrigued by Stormgate. I've been super hyped up by the game, and who knows, maybe that's something that I will branch out into. But I haven't yet made up my mind on how I would do any kind of branching like this. As long as it's AoE, I'm thinking I could probably afford to do that on the same channel. But once it becomes a higher level of variety, I'm not sure if I want to concentrate everything onto a single channel. It's always a difficult call because whenever someone subscribes to this channel, they do so for a specific type of content they are here for. And this was a very heavily AoE4 focused channel as well. So I'm not sure how well it would be received by that community if I started doing a large diversity of games. And, you know, every time someone who is subscribed to this channel sees that there's a new video, they are like, okay, cool, I'm gonna watch this. And then they are disappointed that it's not the game that they subscribed for. So that's kind of the reason why many people and many streamers are diversifying their channels, and they just dedicate specific channels to specific games. And I might do that too, but I'm not certain about that just yet. What I have planned for the time being is that I try to be more active on YouTube, and then just go and see where that takes me. I don't intend to do much on Twitch right now, simply because, as I said, I just don't have the time to provide great consistency there. But on YouTube, I think there's this ability for me to mix streaming with pre-recorded content. So there is a certain level of consistency when it comes to me putting out content. Hold on for a sec. Yeah. So that's kind of the broad concept going forward. It has always been a challenge for me to keep up with streaming, because I'm the type of person that doesn't like to commit 40 hours to stream a week. It sounds crazy, but some streamers, they love to just be there and do it all day. I found that I simply cannot. I am much more efficient in a lower amount of streams that are like higher intensity. That's why I'm enjoying casting at EGC so much. I'm able to just come in, once a weekend or twice a weekend, but not more than twice a week, and just deliver a high intensity cast that I prepare for, that I'm ready for, instead of having to worry about stuff like, hey, tomorrow morning I must stream. I feel like, especially as someone that did that for like 2.5 years on Twitch, I think that it just kind of burns you out eventually. At least that is what I experienced. Some people, they are able to do it. Me, I don't enjoy doing 4, 5, 6 streams a week. It's just a little too burdensome for me. Hold on, let me post this out so that people see this. Yeah, I'm very glad that people have been enjoying the EGC costs. It has been it has been the journey, quite the journey actually, and frankly, there is a crazy story behind that. When I first got into contact with EGC, the chances of me making it into AoE4 was like slim to none. In fact, it was just by chance that I even got into contact with EGC. I wanted to, try casting some AoE3, and they were doing some AoE3 events back then. And that's where I said, look, there is the new DLC, the African Kingdoms, coming for AoE3 back then. And I said, hey, I would be interested in casting a show match or something that you're hosting here. And I was thrown in there. I was teamed up with a rookie caster, very clumsy at a time. He was known by the name of Ozzy Drongo. It was his first time casting in a pair, and he was bad. He knows that he was bad. He was extremely oppressive, but he's always been a great friend and a great collaborator. He's been very receptive of the feedback, and I'm extremely proud that me and Drongo started something together there. It was like, I learned a lot of things from him, and so did he from me. So it was actually a very cool start, and that's how we ended up being the casters of EGC Genesis. I remember Pesty, when we finished that AoE3 stream, he said that he was genuinely shocked how well I did, despite not having much of an in-depth knowledge on AoE3. But it was a funny start with me and Drongo. I remember he was talking like 90% of the time. He just didn't stop talking. And he had to learn how to give windows for the color casters. And that was a journey for him. That took him like half a year. But I think like over the course of that period, he improved a lot. It has been quite cool being part of that, to be honest. That's why like I consider Drongo a great friend as well, not just a fellow collaborator. Simply because what we did together was beneficial for both of us. And I think part of our success together as a pairing comes from the fact that we trust each other a lot. And I'm like, this is something that I kind of highlighted every once in a while. It is insane to think how receptive Drongo is to feedback. Even if you go back like a year ago, Ozzy was, well, he still is the largest creator in AoE4. But every time we cast together and I say some sort of feedback, ask a specific thing like, hey, could I, let's say, get a little bit more window at the beginning of the game or something? He is very receptive of that. He never says stuff like, look, I'm the big content creator. You should just shut up and I will do my thing. He was always very receptive of feedback. And I think the reason why our chemistry is so good is because we have each other's trust. In fact, as I always like to say, whenever we get paired up with Ozzy Drongo, it's not me calling the shots on that. It's essentially Ozzy saying yes to that proposition. And I always said, I've been asked numerous times by Pesty, by other people, like, hey, do you want to cast this with Drongo? And I always said, look, if Drongo wants to cast that with me, I will be glad to, but it's probably not my call. And I'm extremely proud that Drongo essentially always says yes. It is his call. He could easily say no. He's got the power. He's got the reputation, the scene to just pick who he wants to cast with, and he never said no to me. So that's a very cool feeling, I guess. And I think our chemistries work very well. I am, as you probably know, I'm more on the color casting side of things. This evaluation, interpretation, and understanding of the game type. Whereas Drongo is just the mad hype caster, right? So That's why we match up so well. And the thing I had to realize with Drongo is that some of this chemistry just comes natural. I have a decent chemistry now with KP, but it took a lot more time to build up. I don't know why. It's just probably how things are. With some people, you are more compatible. With some, you are less. At the end of the day, your job is to deliver a good broadcast no matter what. But there is a difference between a good broadcast and a great broadcast. And I think, and I'm very happy that with Drongo, we are able to deliver great broadcasts. It's a shame that he wasn't really available recently. In fact, in general, it's a shame that he isn't really available due to time zone issues. But yeah, yeah, that's an OG thing. Aussie drawing lines when we were casting Boulder Bay. That was a little excessive though from him. That was a little excessive, but people loved it. It's been a challenge because when you look at YouTube comments below the casts we did together, it often comes up that I am just boring compared to Drongo, but that's not how this works. When you look at a professional broadcast setup, you always have a more hype guy and someone that's a little more chill, someone that's a little bit more focused on the actual details of the game, the specifics, and that's what I've always been doing. I'm just not this scream my heart out type of a caster. I think I improved a lot in that department, but it just never was my thing, right? Anyway, give me a sec. I'm also in communication with a couple of people here, so some things, they never stop, so sometimes you just have to take a look at things while I'm doing this. Yeah, there will be show matches today, to my knowledge. One that was announced on Reddit was a show match between Corvinus and Crackety, 18 GMT today. Now, I've actually asked Farmman, who is the one hosting that. He said that he would prefer if people didn't live cast it. Well, he said specifically the sponsor would prefer if live cast was exclusive to him, and then Rex would be available, so I will probably skip that. But I think there are some other show matches as well. I heard that Beastie might be playing in something. A lot of things coming up. Speaking of Boulder Bay, how do you think devs go about water? Oh, this is a tough question. I've always been a fan of water, unlike most people. That's the problem. To me, even in AoE2, water was a fun element of the game. I don't think it was quote-unquote as good as land combat was, but it definitely was something that gave a lot of diversity to the game. And I kind of feel the same on AoE4 as well. I feel like the big issue with water right now is that it's a little repetitive. They definitely made it better compared to the release version with this rock, paper, scissors approach for combat ships. But I still don't think it's just enjoyable for many. It gets very repetitive. It's the same thing over and over again. Ballista ships, and then you micro away from demos. Oftentimes it comes down to a single demo. So clear water maps, I am not really a fan of right now. I do enjoy hybrid maps a lot more, though. Because I feel like when you have that diversity of having some land combat and some naval combat at the same time, it gets a lot more intriguing. This is why Holy Island is one of my favorite tournament maps. It's one where you have non-stop naval combat plus some land combat as well, and it really challenges the player's ability to keep track of two things happening at the same time, non-stop. And that's where you see some big demo hits, some massive casualties in naval battles that are like very one-sided. Because even some of the pro players aren't able to keep track of their fleet all the time when they also have to focus on land. So to me right now, water feels like a complementary element to land combat. In itself, I don't think it's good enough. But when you combine it with land engagements, it gets pretty intriguing, I must say. But yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of Holy Island. I've been following Empires at War Archipelago games. Was kind of meh. I just didn't enjoy it. In most games, the winner is one winning the land to decide a game. Yeah, it's a tricky setup on Holy Island specifically, because on Holy Island, you need that initial momentum that water gives, but you need to turn that into land-based momentum. It's a very diverse map, and I'm actually sad that it's a little underused. So yeah, but I don't really know many other maps where water plus land would mix up well. Kawasan has been used in Empires at War. I wasn't impressed. I feel like Kawasan was okay, but it's it's an AoE2 map transition to AoE4, and I don't think it transitions very well. It's hard to say how you would fix water. I don't really have any clear ideas. In fact, yeah, I just can't think of much. I feel like, frankly, demos being a little bit more disruptive could be an intriguing way of doing this. Water fights would be a lot more punishing in that case. But I feel like the issue is, at least from what I see in major naval battles, is that you have a lot of ballista ships supported by some archer ships, and demos are never able to connect. When there's a distraction to either of the players, it suddenly gets reasonable, because then you can get some demo hits in. But if it's pure water combat, you have two players all focused on their fleets. You should never be able to land those demos. So suddenly it becomes just a slugfest, fire being exchanged between two fleets, but that's basically it. It's very micro heavy, but there is just no diversity. I'm actually curious how the new civs will change it, because obviously with the new civs coming in, we have some new naval vessels as well. I don't know when those are available though. Like, the problem is that these ships, any new ships that you would want to implement, they need to be available in Feudal Age. A new Imperial Age ship isn't going to do anything about naval combat. So I think back when they changed up naval gameplay, they definitely took a step in the right direction, but it's still something that's just far from being optimal. If you compare it to AoE2, it's there's a lot less macro, I think, in it. And I think part of that comes down to AoE4 having a lot less ships than AoE2. In AoE2, we're talking 30, 40, 50 ships fighting. You can detach small groups, raid with them on the back of an island, stuff like that. Not so much the case for AoE4. You just have too few ships to make an impact. But yeah, I mean, water has definitely gotten better. It's just still a little sloppy, boring. What about nerfing fishing even more? It's a tough call. I personally wouldn't. Obviously, I'm not a balance guy, but my issue with nerfing fishing is that you get to a point where it just becomes completely useless and no one's going to do it. I think there is a lot of value in fishing, and the mark that you want to hit is basically a balance where you get a good initial boost from fishing, but it dies down very quickly. I think that's the thing I'm missing. In AoE2, when you look at a map like Kawasan, or look at a map like Islands even, the amount of fish that's safely available is very limited. I feel like in AoE4 it's just too much. Even with the reduced amount of fish available, you look at a map like Holy Island, you can fish behind your navy for 2 hours almost, especially with the deep fish replenishing. I feel like that's too much. I feel like if you depleted fish a lot quicker, that would force you to make a land-based transition a lot more, or a lot sooner. and suddenly there would be way less long-term value in fishing. I don't think nerfing the short-term value of fishing is a good idea. Long-term value, much more so. By the way, yeah, I'm just checking out for announcements as well because recently we've had an uptick of announcements as well. So, as I said, Crackety Corvinus show match has been announced. Beastie is also having a subathon. A lot of new stuff. Anyway, this is, I think, where we have to mention. Actually, let me check the maps for EGC finals. Is that public? I'm just curious about it. EGC finals map pool isn't set yet. But we have apparently seven players confirmed. No, 2, 4, 7, 10 players are confirmed for the EGC finals. Is this for a new DLC? Sure. We can talk about the new DLC. I'm more than happy to talk about it. At least the things I can share, I'm more than willing to share. When I compare AoE2 and AoE4 games, the only first notice is that there is limited fish in AoE. Yep. I don't mind the very small replenishment of fish in AoE4, especially because you don't have fish traps. In AoE2, you do have fish traps, so technically you do have infinite fishing, but that's a big investment. It's the same thing as making a farm transition on land. The issue with AoE4's fishing, I feel like, compared to AoE2, is that there's just too much fish to work with. You never have to go into the unsafe areas of the waters. You can probably do fishing at the back of your island forever. And that's not the thing for AoE2. So, in AoE2 you have to contemplate, okay, I'm investing into fishing, but how much do I invest into fishing? How long can I defend it? In AoE4 that's never a thing. Just spam out fishing boats and you will always have a bunch of food to work with. I feel like if you reduce the amount of fish that's available on these maps, or you heavily slow down the time of the fish replenishing, you could make fishing a little bit more balanced in my mind, I think. But that's just my 5 cents on water combat. I think water combat has its issues. It's always going to have its place, but I just don't feel like it's a thing. I just don't feel like it's a thing where it will ever be good. It's gonna be okay at best. One thing that would be intriguing to see is some sort of a boarding mechanic. I wonder if that's something that they had on their mind when they first kind of drew up the concept of the game back before release, long before release. That could have been an intriguing element, being able to board enemy ships and something like that. Because suddenly, you have a lot more micro potential, you have a lot more diversity. Right now, it just feels repetitive. Kind of the same issue that AoE2 has, by the way. AoE2 people usually don't like water combat either. Anyway, one of the things I want to highlight is that I'll probably stay a little longer today. So in about 25 minutes, I might have something to show you. So this might be a longer stream than I actually planned to have, but we might have some juicy stuff coming out at about, something like 25 minutes, approximately. I don't think, like, the issue with water for esports and the issue with the game in general for esports is that this game isn't designed to be an esports game, which is a shame because actually it's hard to say. Seeing the success of AoE2 as an esports title, I think they could have actually made AoE4 an esports game. They just kind of didn't want to, I feel. They probably wanted to focus on the casual audience at the same time as well. But that kind of limits the amount of things that they can do to certain things. And I think when you want to be successful as an esports title and at the same time be accessible for casuals, it gets very difficult. That's what Stormgate is trying to do. I will have to see how that works, but for AoE4, it definitely feels like the priority was to target the casual gamers. We are seeing some changes that are kind of focused on higher level gameplay as well, but it never was the #1 priority for Microsoft, it seems. Please let it be a new Civ show match. Maybe. You never know. You never know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But yep. Anyway, I just wanted to check the maps for EGC Finals, but it's not out yet. But we do have the player list, so that's a thing. Marine Lord, Beastie, Lucifron, B, Puppy, Vortex, Wham, Louis, Recon, and Mista. Louis making it into the EGC Finals is absolutely crazy. I mean, he's been playing really well, but holy smokes, that's not a name I would have guessed at the beginning of this year. And yeah, looking at the qualifiers, Anatan, Demu are the big names. Missing out Lenok and Magic 2, Zerton, Baltoon, Killjardy, Lash. The qualifiers will be fire, man. I'm genuinely hyped up about them. Qualifiers for the EGC Finals will be starting on the 25th. And it's going to be on the new DLC. So, in essentially 2 weeks. Which means I need to learn the new DLC, by the way. That's actually going to be a bit of a learning curve, having to learn all the new stuff. It's surprisingly time-consuming to learn all the new details about the civilizations. This is probably the first time. Yeah, essentially ever since the Ottomans and Malians release, this is the first time where I have to study a lot for a cost, which is something I do frequently. Before I go into a broadcast, especially one where I am somewhat unprepared for, let's say we have a new civs, I always need to study those things. And the last time I had to do this on a very serious level was all the way back when Ottomans and Malians were released, having to learn the new civs. And then before that, of course, it was at the release of the game. Aside from that, I usually just go and study the players themselves, but I'm fairly familiar with them. So this is going to be a bit of a learning curve with the new civilizations. I guess we can talk about the new civs, though. There are some details already released on ageofempires.com, which you definitely should check if you haven't done so already. AoE4 having... let me check this. Games, AoE4, Civilizations. They released some details. How do you see the new civs interacting with the existing ones? I don't want to be wrong, but I feel like the old civs will be stomped. I'm genuinely curious how EGC Finals will go on a pro level with the new civs. Because with the new civs, you have to think about 2 things here. Number 1, new civs will take some time for players to be figured out. So initially, they might look crappy. Number 2, the current civs are fairly well established and you know what to expect from them. So when you use a new civ, you are unpredictable or fairly unpredictable. When you face an old civ, you know what to expect. So I feel like a lot of these games, I could see players avoiding the old civs simply because it makes them a lot more predictable. In fact, I would probably think that players would put a lot of emphasis into learning the variant civs, like Order of the Dragon, Jushi's Legacy, Jeanne d'Arc, and the Iobits. Because those are still similar to the civilizations that they started with. The core gameplay concepts are often very similar, though not identical. But the transition is a lot easier than it is to switch to a civ like the Byzantines, for instance. But it also makes them unpredictable because it's not the same Abbasids or it's not the same French that you used to see. Hello again, are you streaming on Twitch? Not today, Bitterlin. In fact, I am probably not going to stream on Twitch for the foreseeable future. I kind of explained this at the very beginning, but just as a quick recap, if you want to stream on Twitch, you probably want to maintain some sort of a consistency with the content. And I just don't have time to stream 4 or 5 times a week, 4 or 5 hours each time. That is just not something I can fit into my schedule. So the concept of me probably going into a couple of YouTube streams for the coming weeks, months, is that I can mix YouTube streams with YouTube videos. So that there is always some kind of content on this channel. When I feel like I have a lot of time to stream, I can just pop out an 8-hour-long stream. But when I am pressed for time, I can just have some pre-recorded content, like, just the casual casts that I used to upload, or interviews, all kinds of things. I actually have a lot of content ideas for the coming weeks. And that means that there is always going to be a consistent stream of content coming out of me. And it's not going to be this on and off thing that I had essentially for the last year and a half, ever since I started going heavy on EGC casting. Especially because, let's not forget, I don't know how well this is known, but I do have a position at EGC TV as a broadcast manager. So even when I'm not casting, I do have some stuff to do on the back end of things. It doesn't mean I'm always available during streams, but I definitely contribute a lot to setting up the streams. So even just looking ahead to the EGC finals, I already am working on preparing a bunch of very cool stuff for the EGC finals. All I can tease about that is that you will see the coolest production you have seen in AoE4. Maybe excluding Red Bull Vololo, but Red Bull Vololo probably used like $1 million for production, so you can probably excuse us for not surpassing that. But we are probably going to deliver the best broadcast quality and the coolest features. Some very cool new stuff will be coming to EGC broadcasts for the EGC finals. Only $1 million? The figures. Maybe I do as well, but I don't think anybody would be happy from their side if I talked about it. I might know estimates. I don't know. Maybe I don't. But point is, it definitely was a higher budget than what we have at EGC TV. Obviously, it was a LAN setting as well, so the requirements are different. The circumstances are different as well. But at the end of the day, obviously, they had a crazy broadcast quality. They did have the infrastructure to do it. We are somewhat more constrained on things. But I'm still genuinely hoping for some very cool stuff. I don't think I can tease any of that, though. Yeah, I don't think I can. Which is a shame. Speaking of which, if you have any questions to EGC broadcasts, what do I know, Krasini? I need to be cautious about what I say and how, especially because devs are here too. If you're referring to the Red Bull budget, I think I know estimates. Oh, okay. Okay, so it's just insiders talking about money behind the scenes. Hey, Krasini, by the way. Long time no see. Folks, if you don't know, Krasini... I don't know if Krasini still works for Forgotten Empires on maps. He's still in Forgotten Empires. And then there is Bitterlin, of course, a big map boy for us in AoE4. He definitely does work on maps. He's the reason why we don't have scrappy maps at EGC TV. But yeah, if you guys want to talk about EGC broadcasts a little, I'm more than happy to share some insights in there. We've been working very hard on getting some cool stuff going. In fact, did you ever consider to cast AoE2 again? I never said no to it. I love the game. I'm a little rusty right now because I didn't even check the new DLC. Well, I kind of checked it, but it's not the same as, getting into it and understanding how high-level games work with the new civs. But the issue is that I am just constrained on time first and foremost, and second, my availability is extremely inconsistent. If someone said, "Hey, do you want to hop in for a guest cast?" I would never say no. In fact, back when Memba asked me for, I think that might have been King of Desert. Back when I was at NAC, I got into a guest cast. I would never say no to such a thing. But for me to commit a lot of time to AoE2 is just unrealistic. And you have to commit a lot of time to AoE2. You have a lot of hype sets. Just look at Warlords. It's like 6-7 hours of broadcast every single day for 2 weeks. And that's just one event. And then you go into NAC qualifiers. There is the Cartographers event. And those are just the big ones. If you want to start looking into some of the smaller events, some of the like more niche stuff like, you know, Masters of Arena or the BF Draft Tournament, Rage Forest. There are so many events, and my heart breaks every time I cannot cast a cool set. And with AoE2, it's just, you know, one of those cases where you have too many good sets. And if I started casting AoE2, I probably wouldn't be stopping for like 5 days straight. But yeah. Yeah, the other thing as well with Erlin is that keeping up to date with both is a challenge. One thing I learned as a commentator is that it's not about what you know, it's about what you show to the audience. This is actually a fun fact, but I learned the names of the Ottoman and Malian landmarks about half a year after they were released. I cast for half a year without not even knowing the names of them. But I think one of the skills that you have to learn as a pro commentator is concealing the gaps in your knowledge. I knew fully well that there was a landmark for the Ottomans in Castle Age that can make you siege weapons for free. I did not know that it was the Mehmed Imperial Armory. And when I get to casting the new civilizations, I don't expect to know the names of every single landmark immediately. It's just, it takes some time to get used to it, especially because there's a difference between knowing those names and being able to bring those out of your mind in the middle of a broadcast, 4 hours in, very tired, sleepy, whatever, right? So, yeah, the point is that if you pay a lot of attention to improving as a commentator, you can actually conceal gaps in your knowledge. So I could probably go into casting AoE2 and get away well. I wouldn't deliver a catastrophic broadcast. But I also wouldn't be very happy with myself because I would probably keep calling horse arch or cav archers horse archers. I would keep calling Franks the French, Britons English. You need to spend a lot of time in both games at the same time to be able to distinguish those nitpicky details, right? So that's the reason why I kind of stopped doing it. It's taking away energy from AoE4 as well, and I'm just limited on time. I think it would be easier to cast a different game that's like very distinct. So if I, let's say, tried casting StarCraft, which I won't because I'm just way too late to that party, that would be a lot easier because there are way less phrases or way less things in general that are just overlapping. So, yep, basically, I've actually been flirting with the idea of casting other games as well. I've been paying a lot of attention to other games, like you probably know, I'm hyped on Stormgate. But I also did some test casts for Valorant. It has been a gigantic challenge for me, but I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It's still in the process of learning, though. What's the most important thing to analyze while commentating? Kind of depends on the game. But the thing I like to do as a color caster is convert numbers, stats, metrics into an understandable storyline. I think, generally speaking, the professional commentary starts by establishing a storyline, and you have to build around that storyline using the numbers you're given, the metrics, and the state of the game. So, for instance, let's say you have Beastie facing off against Louis MT. Beastie, very accomplished AoE4 player. Louis MT still kind of in this upswing moment. If Louis MT starts pulling ahead 3-0 in a best of 7, one of the things that you will actually focus on is how Louis MT is different from the players that Beastie has faced before. You will focus on stuff like, okay, what did Louis MT change in his playstyle to accomplish this? And this is often a misconception in people. People will say, oh yeah, this is actually a biased cost towards this and this. That's not the case. It's just the fact that you have a storyline, the storyline being the fact that, this player has never beaten this other player before. Now he's winning big time. How is this possible? That's one of the things I like to focus on. The second is just, it kind of comes natural, especially when it comes to AoE4. And it's just a thing that it's a thing that you learn as you cast the numerous games. You see a lot of things and you know what's coming next. Some of these are obvious, like let's say one player going heavy on the knights and then the other one has to respond going into crossbows or going into spears. But some of these are not necessarily so straightforward. So when you look at an eco setup, hey, this player is doing a 2TC fast castle, the other one is 3TC dragged out feudal age. How does that match up against each other? What do you do to beat the opponent? But the thing I like to do when I color cast is essentially think over what a certain player could do next. I'm specifically using the word could because viewers often get tilted about casters saying should. I don't think casters are meant to say stuff like, this player should do this, they should do that, because indeed, in that case, it kind of feels like you're telling a pro player what to do. Why don't you just do it yourself and become a pro player, right? But lining up possibilities, giving the viewer's understanding of the options available to a player is always valuable, because then the viewers can think like, oh yeah, this is something that he could do, and you can kind of follow up on that thought, that chain of thought, saying, okay, if Beastie does this, how does Marine Lord reply to that? And this is how you kind of build up storylines. That's kind of my style of analysis right now in AoE4. Hi, Walking Jinx. Welcome, welcome. Are you done with Twitch completely? It's not a matter of like being done as a platform. It's just the fact that I don't have time to stream consistently on Twitch. And I just don't think it's good on Twitch to stream like, you have a week where I stream 3 times and then there's a 2-week gap. That's just bad. The thing I'm trying right now with YouTube is that here, when I'm not streaming, let's say, I can still put out some videos so that there is always some sort of a content coming out. We'll have to see how this works. I genuinely do not know. But that's kind of my mindset right now. Obviously, part of this comes from the fact that you can now multi-stream on Twitch and YouTube, so technically I could stream to both platforms. But same thing, I just see no major benefit in streaming to Twitch once a week, or even twice a week. I don't know. We'll have to see how this works. For now, I kind of take it casual, but I do want to diversify the content that's here as well. I have been very heavy on just commentary on this channel. And I want to diversify that too. I want to go into stuff like interviews, some fun videos as well. So I have some plans that I want to make happen in the next couple of weeks. What's the best way to build a player pool in tournaments? I actually don't know. I haven't done that for a while. If I want to be simple, I just say, look, you got to put down the dollars on the table and players will play. That's usually how esports works. Based on my experience in AoE2 and as a TO back in those times, oftentimes, some of the factors to consider is how fun the tournament it is. Players want to enjoy playing, especially in smaller tournaments. If you have some very fun settings, players will be more inclined to play in this, even if the prize pool is smaller. If you have some very scrappy settings, let's say Archipelago only, don't be surprised if players will just reject playing even if the prize pool is high, because they will simply say, look, I just don't enjoy playing this. I just don't want to be part of this. The other thing to consider is POV streaming, which has become relevant recently. Many players, especially the ones that stream their own POV, they just miss out on a bunch of money if they don't stream. So if you say, look, there's a $100 tournament, but you cannot stream, they might just say no because, well, if they cannot stream, they actually miss out on a larger amount of income. So what they end up doing, many TOs, is saying, okay, POV streams you can do so that, you don't have this issue. Any chance of big AoE2 players trying at AoE4 again? Perhaps. I don't know. I mean, the DLC would be a good time for that, and I think the game is in a decent shape right now as well. But I don't have a clear indication of that. I could see players like Doubt and Taro giving it a shot. They have been intrigued by the game before. Maybe Viper is going to give it a shot as well. Aside from that, I don't know. I don't think players like Hero will come back. Others, there weren't many players that spent a lot of time in AoE4. And the ones that are competitive in AoE2, they probably won't. Because at the end of the day, if you split time between the two games as a player, that's going to hurt your chances in being successful in both. So for someone like Hera or Viper, there's actually a risk of just, falling behind the competition in AoE2 simply because they focus time on AoE4. Yeah, I mean, you definitely see a lot of players participating in smaller events as well, especially in AoE4, because you have a limited amount of large events. If you looked at AoE2, you would see a lot less consistent pattern. In AoE2, you probably won't get someone like Leary or Hera for a $200 tournament. You might, but it's not guaranteed, especially if they cannot stream. Some pro players will still sign up because they might think it's easy money if the competition is weak, and that's actually true. That's why you see Doubt playing in a lot of smaller events. I know ACCM plays in almost everything. Especially players from countries where, the cost of living is smaller. It makes sense for them to play. Players from Brazil, from Vietnam, they often play in these small events. Because even if they win $100, that's like a month's rent, right? So, for them, it's worth it. For someone like, I don't know, Viper, for instance, there's just no reason for him to play a $200 tournament. Especially because there are a lot of those in AoE2. He simply cannot commit to all of them. But in AoE4, you have a lot less events. So, that's part of the reason why in AoE4, players are more inclined to play in these small stuff. Anyway. I think I can show you something in a moment. Give me a sec. But yeah, cost of living is a big thing. That's why many pro players can be full-time players / content creators, despite having a much smaller audience than some others. There are pro players, especially in AoE2, who are full-time with 100 viewers on Twitch. I most definitely could not do something like that. And part of that is, them living in a low cost of living country. So for them, if they make $500 a month, that's like a lot of money compared to someone who lives in, let's say, Germany or the United States, where that's not even enough to buy a bag of potatoes. Can I show you something? Let me check my DMs. Bitterlin, can I? Let me check for a second. I can. Okay, chat. So here's the thing. I can now... let's see. Can you guys see the title change? That's the first question. You might need to refresh the page. But, folks, NDA has lifted on AoE4, the new DLC. The creator preview starts exactly right. Well, the creator preview was available for some time for us, so we could check the game. But we can actually stream the game from now on, the new DLC. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, believe it or not, I messed up the times. I thought NDA lifts tomorrow. I was completely unaware it lifts after this. I just wanted to stream for exactly an hour and then have lunch. But, you know, things lined up this way, so we are going to cast pro games. That's the plan. Can I change the thumbnail, though? That's my problem right now. And now you probably understand why I have something lined up for Saturday as well. I had a scheduled stream on YouTube. You can see that on the YouTube channel page I have. I actually scheduled a stream for Saturday because I was like, what if we could cast some DLC games? So that's what we are going to do. Let me fire up the game. Now, disclaimer, big disclaimer. I spent some time taking a look at the new civs, but I'm still a rookie in these. So I am going to be on the learning curve as much as you guys are. How do I change the thumbnail for this? Can I just... I will just put some random image in there. Do I have something here? Give me a sec. I just need to find a random image that I could use for a thumbnail. Oh, this is gonna be fine. All right, folks. And indeed, EGC TV just announced some show matches. I also was restricted to say that. So EGC TV will be having 2 show matches this weekend. Saturday, it's going to be Dimu versus Mista playing. And Sunday, it is going to be Beastie versus Marine Lord. I will be on the Sunday broadcast, but not the Saturday one. Saturday, we'll have KP and Winston. Winston, of course, being a dev, he's going to have some great insights. We'll have to see who pairs up with me for Sunday. It's a little uncertain. But I'll be casting on the Sunday broadcast. Anyway, folks, new DLC hype. Where's my thing? Let's see. It works. Okay, let's see who we can yoink. I might do some recorded games as well, especially because many of the pro players are hiding their match history. So how about we start off with... Kaup has played some games. Oh, Kaup has played against Core and is Japanese versus Jushi. Okay, let's go. How do I do this? I can place this here. Give me a sec. I also want to announce on Discord, so... Hold on for a second. I don't think B is going to play just now. This is what I want. And let me announce it on my Discord. I want people to watch, you know. I need to be a millionaire from this or something. Boom. So there is that. And I'm also going to post on Twitter. Don't worry, guys, we're going to start in a second. There's a Krakeny versus Corvinus. That's true, Bitterlin, but I talked to Farmman and he said that the sponsor of the event requested not to have it live cast aside from him. So like that, the sponsor gave him the money to host this so that it's exclusive. I will respect that request, so I won't be I won't be stealing people's content over here, so to say. All right, let's get into this though. Okie dokie. Here we go. I might upload these as individual games as well. We'll see. This is not the one I wanted. All right, this is the one. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first game I'm going to cast here in the brand new DLC, The Sultan's Ascent of AoE4. We have Core versus Kaup over here. This is the content creator preview of the DLC, just about a week before the launch of the DLC. And we have two brand new civilizations over here on a lovely Japanese-themed map with these beautiful cherry trees. To the north, it's Kaup playing as the Japanese. To the south, it is going to be Core playing as the China variant, Jushi's Legacy. Now, make no mistake, folks, this is new content for me as well, so disclaimer, I am also still learning parts of the gameplay with these civs, but so do the players, so we are here to learn some new things about these. Starting off, Kaup is going to play the Japanese, which have a unique building known as the Forge. This is basically a blacksmith and a mining camp at the same time, but it also gives you this Dark Age melee tech. So you see, for the Japanese, you have only 3 techs for all of these upgrades, the armor and the ranged attack, 1 out of 3, you can see that over there. But for melee, they also get a Dark Age tech, so they actually have 4 layers, which means that they will have more melee attack buffs by the end of the game. That's kind of where we start. Yeah, there we go. On the other side, Jushi's Legacy is a China variant. It's a fairly standard start for them, but they do start with an Imperial Officer. They've gotten these new little icons with a purple background. I love that. We'll talk about them a little later in this game. The map, I think, is Dry Arabia, so it's pretty straightforward in that department. And for now, Kaup is just rolling with a very standard Dark Age over here. Now, Japanese... Their other unique building is the farmhouse, which is a farm and a house at the same time. Actually, it's a mill and a house, beg your pardon. So you want to place that close to the berries, actually. They also have these unique tech, the Tovara, and the subsequent upgrades. That's kind of a mix of their food upgrade and their wheelbarrow. And Kaup is going to age with the Kura Stone House. This is essentially a building that's going to spawn farms around it, so your food eco is going to be pretty well set. On the other side, Core is not aging up the feudal age just yet. Kura Stonehouse it is. When you look at the resource income, it's pretty standard so far for Kaup. On the other side, same for Core with Jushi's Legacy. Now, when it comes to Jushi, let's talk about that. Their unique stuff starts to show essentially in Feudal Age and beyond. And one of those things that we might see in this game is going to be the Palace Guards. Palace Guards in Feudal Age, that is, because Jushi's Legacy have access to those. The landmark that we're going up with here for Core is going to be the Meditation Gardens, which, as you see, it's essentially going to give you a trickle of resources based on the resources nearby. This is a beautiful spot for this. You see, it kind of surrounds this forest, and I think it touches the gold. So this is a very nice placement here for Core. It touches the hunt, it touches the berries, the wood as well, and even the gold. This is probably as good as it gets for the gardens. On the other side, you see the Kura Stonehouse is already spawning you farms, which means that you are going to have your farm transition made. It's not going to be a spectacular amount of farms long term, but it means that you have pretty secure food eco in Feudal Age at least. This is actually a big thing because one of the weaknesses of players, especially if you want to focus a lot on your economy, it's food being exposed. You run out of sheep, you have to go out for your hunt, your berries, and that's an exposed position for your enemy to attack. So you spawning with a bunch of farms, definitely allows you to play a lot more condensed and maybe focus a little less on army. That's actually what we are seeing over here from Core. He's going for Takazaiku, which is the second eco upgrade already. This gives you a movement speed boost as well, and a berry getter capacity too. So you see now the farmhouse is down. This also acts as a mill. He's going to focus on the berries because he has tier 2 of this upgrade already. And there's Tatara, which is the unique Dark Age melee upgrade for the Japanese. Now this one costs stone. This is a big difference compared to other civs when it comes to the melee upgrades. And boy oh boy, that's going to be a big thing because that means that you need to secure your stone. Barracks on the way for Kaup. Other side, you see Meditation Gardens will give you 48 food per minute, 32 wood, 30 gold. Not bad for Dark Age, or for Feudal Age, beg your pardon. If you think about it, in 10 minutes time, this has given you essentially 8,000 resources. That's not too shabby. A lot of upgrades coming in here, and we are going to have our first samurai spawn. Now, Japanese infantry is very unique in many ways, but what you're going to see here is a samurai. Spearman is pretty standard. Samurai, on the other hand, it's a melee infantry that's going to give you some interesting combat capabilities, primarily deflective armor. Now, deflective armor basically means that you cancel one attack against this unit, and this recharges out of combat. So this is a unit that's very good to charge into battles with, because the first volley, or like the first initial damage against this unit just disappears. There it is, you see. Aside from this, this is essentially a standard melee infantry. It doesn't have any bonus against anything, though. It does have 3 melee and 3 ranged armor, so it's very reminiscent of the Palace Guards, actually. Speaking of Palace Guards, looks like Core did not opt to go into Palace Guards. Instead, he's going for the Chugenu. Now you see, Jushi's legacy is very restricted on archers. They don't have archers, actually, they just have the Chugenu and the crossbows plus Grenadiers. But as you will see later on, hopefully, they have a very good lineup of cavalry. So, in late game, Jushi's legacy is definitely a cavalry-heavy civ. There is the Onabugeisha for our Japanese player. This is a very interesting unit. It's kind of a glass cannon. You see 85 HP only with no armor, but it's super fast. And the attack speed is also spectacular. You see 0.9 attack speed compared to the Samurai being at 1.38. A regular Spearman has 1.8. So this guy attacks very quickly. This means that the effective DPS coming out of this unit is actually pretty good. Farm still spawning over here for Kaup. On the other side, a mass Chukonu is the way to go. Here come the Chukonu, pushing the gold mine here. Gold miners will be pushed away, but there's the Samurai, and you see the deflective armor combined with the 3 ranged armor is just so powerful. These Samurai, they act as men-at-arms in Feudal Age, and such a small group of Jugenu just cannot do anything against them. And you can kind of mix these Samurai with the Onabugeisha, because this unit is very quick, so it can easily catch these Jugenu as they are retreating. Side note is that it's a little difficult to distinguish the two units, at least from a distance. Both of them are varying Naginatas. When you zoom out, or when you zoom in, it's actually pretty easy to distinguish between them, but when you zoom out, it's actually difficult to focus down the Onabugeisha, which are unarmored, from a group of Samurai. More Samurai are on the way. Kaup is super heavy on the infantry. Having 2 attack bonuses already is actually pretty good over here, because the Onabugeisha have a pretty low base attack. So do the Samurai, actually. Scout gets picked off here. Core heavy on the army, though. He's got just mass Chukonu coming out here, supervising multiple ranges. And a problem here for Kaup is that his gold mine is more than exposed. He needs to go for a defensive tower, has to fight this one. Slowly but surely, those Chukonu eat away at the armor, and you see now when you start focusing down the Onabugeisha, they get picked apart very quickly. Still, let's not forget that Kaup's eco is well set up. He's gotten multiple eco upgrades. Wheelbarrow on the caster mode is actually not showing for him, which is a real shame, but he has gotten the Japanese equivalent of Wheelbarrow already. Chukunu in larger quantities coming in. Siege Engineering on the way for Core. He wants to fight this fully in Feudal Age. And you see, this is where this trickle of resources comes in very handy. Every minute, you get 40 food, 30 wood, 30 gold. That is essentially the price of more than a Chukunu, actually. So you get a single Chukunu per minute for free. Pretty neat. 41 Chukunu already here for Core. On the other side, Kaup does have the quality, but not the numbers. Those samurai are super expensive. He does have an outpost here. It looks very fancy, I must say. I love this outpost look. Does have arrow slits on it. Infantry is leaving his base, though. This is going to leave this tower very much exposed. And only a handful of samurai back at home to defend. You see, production isn't really consistent here for Kaup. No more samurai coming out, and this army is just grossly mispositioned right now for him, for his defense. Here come the Chukunu, pressing onto this tower. Kaup has to relocate to this other gold mine here, but this is going to be scouted by Core. This is almost a Hail Mary now for Kaup. Trying to dive underneath the TC with the samurai, cause some chaos. But stopping this force is just next to impossible for him. Forge is going to get knocked down. And these are villas. Not a single samurai back at home right now. There's only a single battering ram. Now, with the Japanese, you can actually buff the combat capabilities of your town center, but that's not something that Kaup has stone for. A good counterattack. Samurai will be hard to clean up, and this is a good raid. 3 villagers killed already. Reinforcements will also be intercepted, but the moment Core sees this, he's just going to dive. He knows that there is no army back at home here. This is a scary TC, though. And yeah, this is something that we haven't yet talked about. I've seen discussions about this, and I'm not sure which is true, which is not. But the Japanese TC has 8 tiles range compared to the standard... Actually? Yeah, this is... The Jushi TC also has 8 tiles range. Never mind me. It's the same then. Anyway, this is a long-range TC. So, you gotta be cautious diving underneath with the Chukunus. That's what I wanted to say. Nice cleanup over here. Core has lost 9 villagers in the process, by the way. But, of course, him having Song Dynasty, he does have... is he in Song Dynasty? He's still in Tang. Wait a sec. Oh, yeah, that's worker kills, not workers lost. I always confuse that. I think it's the other way around in AoE2 Capture Age. This building, the Kura Stone House, by the way, allows you to garrison villas as well, so they're a little safer here. And I love how Core is burning down farms. These farms... Once you burn down many of them, it's going to take a long time to replenish from the stone house. So there is actual value in destroying them. You see, the first one respawned immediately, but the next one, it no longer does. This is actually causing a lot of damage on Kaup Seiko. And he already lost a lot more vills than Core did. Core only lost 2 villagers to this counterattack. 26 army out there for Kaup, though. Here come the samurai. He's also mixing in a couple of Yumi Ashigaru, which is just a standard archer type unit. And this is scary for Core. This is a heavily armored army of samurai here, jumping on the Jugonu. Number still looking good for Core, though. He keeps retreating here. Has to start picking off the lightly armored Ashigaru first, probably. That's a lot of Jugonu, though. They almost one-shot these samurai, and I just don't feel like Kaup has enough. He's trying his best to clean this up. Samurai lining up as well. But this choke point should be a death trap here for Kaup. He's going to push this army away, but this is just going to be way too insufficient to clean this up. So many of the samurai are heavily damaged, and this should be cleaned up here. Core's got a new group coming in as well, and Mass Chukunu looks like it's a thing that's still going to be very relevant in Feudal Age, because this is not something that the Japanese of Kaup could stop. Jushi's legacy, very similar start to what you would expect from Chinese in a setup like this in the old meta. But you see some big differences. You see Core, he can make these Chukunus in the Tang Dynasty. He doesn't need Song Dynasty for this. And, you know, the fact that he's got the Meditation Gardens giving him a resource trickle obviously contributes to his ability to just spam out the Chukunu. Looks like Kaup was able to repel this quite effectively, though. He lost most of the samurai, so it's not going to be good in the long run, though. He kind of switched into Yumi Ashigaru, which is actually a very good unit. It's cheap archer, and generally speaking, archers are good against the Chukunu, so this might be an okay tool for Kaup. I just don't think he has the numbers. He's outnumbered 3-1, has to go all the way back here for the stone on the forge. And I think he lost his initial forge over here, so he doesn't really have a blacksmith equivalent unit. Nice cleanup on the Chukunu, though. These units only have 4.5 tiles range. Ashigaru will outrange them, and they are fast. They move at 1.38 tiles per sec compared to 1.12. Means that they are able to outrun the Chukunu and chase them down. There is the GG, folks. Here it is, first game I took a look at in this new DLC. Core taking down Kaup off the back of the Chukunus. What a lovely game to start with. I'm definitely intrigued about the Japanese potential, though, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more from this Civ. Alright, that's a start. Recon. Recon is playing. Let's see, who are we casting next? Let's take a look. Some high-level players. I'm trying to find some good games for you. We have some recorded games kind of stashed away in case we need it. But I would love to cast some fresh out of the oven games here for you. Alright, looks like that's not going to be a thing. We could do a new map. Yeah, that's what we are going to do. Jushi versus Iobids. How does that sound? Alrighty, let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kaup vs Corvinus here in the content creator preview of the new AoE4 DLC. We have Kaup playing as the teal color with Jushi's Legacy, a China variant civilization. And on the other side, it is Corvinus 1, formerly known as Salami. He is going to be in command of the Iobids, which is the new variant civilization for the Abbasid dynasty. The new map that we're looking at here is known as Hinayama, and I have to say, it looks beautiful. It's a large open field in the middle with most of the hunt focused around the middle as well. Most of the gold is towards the middle too, and you really have this open area in the middle, which is intriguing for open field engagements in mid-game. There's a little pond here as well for some shore fishing. Reminds me a little bit to the Cauldron tournament map, but it's a lot more open. It's definitely not as enclosed as Cauldron was. Now, Jushi's Legacy has a pretty standard start here. It's essentially what you're going to see for a regular Chinese player in Dark Age. They do start with an Imperial Officer. What's more intriguing is what we're going to see for the Iobids here, because they do have some intriguing things to start Feudal Age with. And one of the first things that you will see is that the Iobids can choose between two options for every wing that they age up with, and that gives them an endless amount of versatility when it comes to aging up. And you see, here we go. So Economy Wing, Military Wing, Culture Wing, and Trade Wing. And what they can do here is choose between one of these two options for each of these wings. And each of these are pretty impactful decisions. So for instance, you see, if you go up with the Eco Wing, you have 3 villagers. And if you go up with the Industry part of this wing, you get 300 wood. What I love, though, is Culture Wing, and specifically age cost being a lot lower. That's actually something that's going to make things very intriguing. It's something that's reminiscent of the old Culture Wing in the classic Abbasids, but it's something that you can use to go up to Feudal Age with as well. And that's actually a pretty cool thing. Anyways, Corvinus is going to play around the Industry part of this. And that means that he's going to get 300 wood when he reaches Feudal Age. You see, he's heavy on the stone, so he's going to use that wood to invest into a new TC and just have a very expedited second town center build. On the other side, the Meditation Gardens is going to be the landmark of choice for Kaup. This is going to trickle some resources based on what resources you have in its radius. Some wood is inside here. It touches the gold. You actually can see the boundary box of the gold being within this circle. Stone is there as well. And I think if you have some sheep over here, it also counts as food. So it's going to give you a nice trickle of everything, excluding food. Now the problem is that you don't have many of this, so it's not going to be a spectacular trickle. Corvinus on the way up. He is going to be in feudal in about 30 seconds. When you look at second town center spots, I think here might be a reasonable one. Kind of protects the backside of the base, secures some wood lines. We could see it on the gold, but there aren't really any prime spots. He might be actually going towards the hunt and maybe even the shorefish. This would be an intriguing TC placement, but that seems to be the case for him, heading out towards the hunt. Now, Jushi's Legacy does have access to Feudal Age Palace Guards, but they are pretty pricey, so I'd be somewhat surprised if Kaup went for them. He's on stone, he's on wood, so we will see an additional town center though. House of Wisdom on the way, and there is the wood somewhere. Where was that dropped at? I think Corvinus got it immediately, so there's the second TC coming out. It's going to be right on the hunt for Corvinus. And for Kaup, he's sitting on 2 IOs for the time being, supervising wood, supervising stone. There's the second TC coming in for him soon as well. Now, this is where you see the difference between these strategies, and this is where you see the power of these options available to the IO bids. Being able to get that second TC out so quickly is definitely a powerful bonus here if you want to focus heavily on the eco. Let's take a look at those other bonuses, though, because I think there are some more intriguing stuff here. Culture Wing, discount on next age. This is probably good for Imperial Age. Dervishes for Castle Age, though, is very good to yoink relics. For the Military Wing, cavalry units gain the ability to construct siege weapons. I'm not intrigued by that much for the time being. 3 Desert Raiders for every 2 minutes for the rest of the game is pretty good, though. This is a legit Feudal Age upgrade, or a Feudal Age choice, if you want to play aggressive, I feel. And of course, Blacksmith upgrades becoming free is an intriguing option as well. Could be interesting when you match up against the Delhi to kind of offset that deficit of having to invest into those upgrades. Double TCs here for Kaup, very, very condensed, right next to each other. And it looks like he might be going for a third TC here. He did not stop collecting stone. On the other side, I feel like Corvinus, especially mining gold with 6 villagers, 190 per minute, that's an indication that he wants to go castle. If you're that heavy on gold in early mid-feudal, that's a sign of a player wanting to go to castle. And I think he could be using the advancement option for the Culture Wing. And if he does that, he is going to be in Castle Age very quickly. You see, it's not just a discount on the resources, it's also a discount on the time. One of the biggest weaknesses of the Abbasids was that they couldn't accelerate their age-up process. Now you have this tool for the IO bids. So it's definitely something that's interesting to look at for Corvinus here. You see, the eco balance is going to be there. He is going to have the resources. And I'm very strongly convinced that he's going to go up with advancement. On the other side, we do have a Kaup. Coming in here with a third TC. Obviously, going for a third town center is something that's going to delay your Castle Age progress quite a bit. And this could leave him exposed for an early Castle Age attack. Now, looks like Corvinus opts not to go with the Culture Wing, or the Advancement Culture Wing. But I think that's partly because he's just low. Actually, wait a second. Are we on Kaup's POV? Yeah, we were on Kaup's POV. Corvinus could afford this, but he probably doesn't want to fire this fire this shot just yet. So he probably just goes standard age up. In that case, I feel like reinforcement is legit. But I could see Master Smith being a thing as well. Maybe even logistics, to be honest. So that he can yoink the relics. Looks like he's going Trade Wing, though, with the Bazaar. Alright, I did not expect that. So every 3 minutes, a trader caravan arrives with a random selection of 4 favorable exchanges of resources and units. And then the quality of these trades is permanently set depending on the age at which the Trade Wing is constructed. Alright, I'm gonna have to see how this works. This is going to be the first time for me seeing this in effect. But I'm intrigued by this. Also means that Corvinus will retain advancement for Imperial, so he can rush Imperial whenever he wants. I don't think you ever need to rush Imperial, but could be a handy tool. For now, Kaup is working towards Castle Age. Now you see he's heavy on gold. Kind of moved all the villagers away from the sheep, moving towards the middle for the hunt, realizing that Corvinus isn't really aggressing that area. Give me a sec. By the way, folks, if you're watching this on YouTube as a video, this was part of a live cast that I did. So, in case you want to hop in, make sure to check out the YouTube channel for future scheduled streams. That's what I wanted to say. Three DC still for Kaup, but you see, this is where you really start to see that difference in the timing of that second town center for the Ayobids. Corvinus got that second TC so quickly that Kaup is just now catching up with the 3 TCs of Jushi's Legacy. Now, into Castle Age he goes with the Jiangnan Tower. My Chinese pronunciation is pretty scrappy, so excuse me for that. It's a drop-off point for IOs, which is cool, but the better thing is that you do get a free unit every time a barracks, a range, or a stable is completed, plus you also get a free villager when a TC is completed. I think it's retroactive, so you should be getting some for the TCs done too, right? Looks like not, but I might have missed it. He didn't seem to get anything for this, so we're gonna have to see how this works. Alright, Rax, and it looks like he's going to just age into Yuan Dynasty now. He's in Song right now. Oh, this was their Feudal Age landmark. That's what I confused. He's not in Castle Age yet. Beg your pardon. I thought this is the Castle Age landmark, but no, that's just the Song Dynasty landmark. He's going into Castle with the Mount Lu Academy. And the Mount Lu Academy also gives you a buff for IOs, and it gives you some unique IO upgrades as well. Supervision being 300% is massive. Movement speed is neat too. Supervise and keeps to reduce the damage is pretty neat as well. And then IO limit being +2 is fair, I guess. A lot comes down to how much you use Imperial officers, though. Palace Guards will be on the way as well. But we do have some Chukun. Actually, those are crossbows being queued up by Kaup. Both players now in Castle. Corvinus is making some Dervishes, which is an Ayobid unique monk unit. It can carry a relic, and it's a mounted unit, so it can yoink relics very quickly. So let's talk about this Trade Wing thing that Corvinus got. 320 gold for 600 food. These prices are locked in as well. He has gotten some traders too, which is pretty cool as well. And he's actually, no, he didn't get the traders. He's buying the traders. And you see, 4 villas for 325 gold is pretty bad. 4 traders for 325 gold is pretty neat. 5 Bedouin swordsmen for 325 gold. That's actually pretty good. But it looks like he went with the Bedouin skirmishers. These actually look like essentially javelin throwers from the Malians. High range, 6 tiles that is, and a bonus attack against light infantry. Io was sniped over here by Corvinus. He also has Desert Trader, which is a unit that can switch between melee and ranged attacks. For now, it's going to be on melee. And this is a good aggression here by Corvinus. These Bedouin Scourge should be able to take down the Spearmen. They should not be able to do much against the Palace Guard, though. So you see, Desert Raider does have a sword attack by default, and in that case, it kind of acts as a Camel Rider, has 6 melee armor as well, but it can swap to a bow and kind of acts as a Camel Archer in that case. Corvinus very heavy on the gold here. You see, he's actually going into this kind of setup with the traders, trying to go for some Bedouin skirms, maybe some Bedouin swordsmen as well, but now he is dropping some barracks. Ghulam and Spearmen, same setup as what you have for the Abbasids over here. He's going to go heavy on the spears, it seems. In the meantime, Kaup, he's piling up a lot of food, piling up a lot of gold. We might see Yuan Dynasty becoming a thing very soon. Vololo coming in here with the Dervish. Won't connect, but you see, Dervish being a very good combat healing unit here, it's almost overhealing the damage that the Palace Guards are doing. It's also something that moves very quickly, so you can just get out of trouble quicker than you got into it, actually. And you can just yoink the relic away. There's a market here for Corvinus. He's trading with that neutral trade site right now. Gets 60 gold per trip from each of these traders. Ghulam should be able to clean this up nice and easy. Looks like we will have some more IO upgrades here for Kaup. And you see, when you start grabbing these upgrades, especially the 150% to 300% upgrade, that's going to skyrocket your economy. Just look at the resource income that Kaup has from this. The drop-off is insane, actually. If we switch POVs, drop-off is insane. Unit production is going to be insane when you supervise these buildings. Let's take a look at the stable, though. We now have a stable here for the for this Jushi setup. The Yuan Raider is a unique unit as well, and the Imperial Guard. Those are the two key units to take a look at here for the Jushi Civ, or the Jushi variant Civ, I guess. Castle coming in here, and look at this. Corvinus is going for one of my favorite new things in the DLC. Tower of the Sultan coming in. This is essentially a battering ram that fires arrows. It looks very ridiculous. It's super expensive, but boy, is this a fun unit to take a look at. Look at this bad boy. This is how it looks like. You can actually garrison 20 units in this. That is a terrifying unit. In the meantime, Kaup is just building up an army of Palace Guards, some crossbows as well. You see, this mid-game composition for Jushi is actually very reminiscent of what you usually get from Chinese. Golden Age Tier 3 now in here for Corvinus as well. You can actually go to Tier 5 now, which gives you additional bonuses. You see, Tier 4 siege units costing less than, or 20% less. That's a valuable upgrade as well, especially if you want to go very heavy on these towers. And Tier 5 camel units attacking 20% faster. It's pretty valuable when you want to use the actual camel raiders, or the Bedouin raiders that we have here. Very peaceful and slow game, though. I feel like it's just the calm before the storm, because Corvinus is prepping these bad boys. Boy, oh boy, is he prepping those bad boys. Now, looking at these guys, they have 800 HP, 20 range defense, so they are basically invincible to arrow fire. They will take a lot of damage from Springolds, and they do take a lot of torch damage as well. So you see 0 fire resistance. You kill these with melee units, but that's where this army comes in here for Corvinus. He has his own crossbows and Ghulam. I guess the concept of these towers is that you can garrison a bunch of units inside and force your opponent to get close and engage this, start throwing torches before you actually disembark with your troops. Jushi's library coming in as the implant mark here. This gives you a series of unique upgrades. Cloud of Terror, AoE attack for bombards. Advanced Administration, IOs, getting a bunch of extra HP plus additional gold. Something that you can match up with the rest of the IO upgrades you've gotten before. This is a big one though. Dynastic Protectors unlocks the Yuan Raider and the Imperial Guard, 2 elite cavalry units. 10,000 bolts. True Cannon and Crossbow firing extra bolts. Obviously very valuable as well if you have a ranged heavy composition. And then Spearmen and Horsemen gain a fire lance when charging. Roar of the Dragon, big one as well. Probably the best ones are Roar of the Dragon, 10,000 bolts, and then Dynastic Protectors. Maybe Cloud of Terror too, but I feel like these 3 are immensely valuable. More towers coming in, man. More towers. Corvinus is prepping all the towers. Every single tower he can grab. Here comes the push. That's a lot of units. You see, Corvinus is essentially pop-capped. He does have some infantry as well, but I think these towers, they also consume a lot of population. Actually, we can check. It's only 3 pop, which is actually ridiculously low for the actual firepower you get out of this. But this is our only standard horsemen. They won't stand a chance. There's a dervish as well coming in to heal. They do have a mass healing ability as well, which is, I think, a very cool feature of them. These horsemen stand no chance, but here come the nasty, nasty towers. And boy, are they looking scary. Imp upgrades are lacking right now for Kaup. He doesn't really have a sizable army either. Let's see what these towers are able to do. Knock, knock. Look at this. This is just terrifying. This is just terrifying. They do have a bunch of bow attacks as well. The ram attack is massive. Nest of Bees helps out quite a lot over here, but in and of itself, it's not going to be enough. In fact, look at the arrows coming out of these towers. That is ludicrous, man. Production building's not getting taken down over here. Nest of Bees not really doing much. Yuan Raiders will be mixed in, though. They do have a great raiding ability, but it's not a frontline unit that you want to fight against those towers with. Here comes the charge. Mass healing coming in from the dervishes as well. Crossbows lining up. This just feels way too insufficient here for Kaup. He's barely able to hurt any of the troops here from Corvinus, let alone take down those towers. Nest of Bees gets a nice volley out, but mass healing is just going to cancel that. But the Yuan Raiders, here they come. They are pretty tanky, 200 base HP, but the base stack is just lacking, I feel. They don't really have any massive bonuses against these crossbows. They do have bonuses against siege here, but they need to get rid of these troops first to destroy the towers, and that just doesn't seem to be happening. There's a lot of them, though. That's a lot of Yuan Raiders coming out of here. Still, Corvinus is knocking on those buildings. Crossbows are slowly picking apart the Yuan Raiders. They do have 6 ranged attack, so once you get rid of the dervish, or not just dervishes, but the Gulam as well, crossbows won't really be doing much against these guys. It's actually a lot. Where are the... Oh, wait a second, I didn't even see this. That's a lot of stables, man. Kaup coming in with mass production of the Yuan Raiders, and they are fairly cheap for a unit with 200 HP. He might actually stand and just hold this off. This is a lovely engagement. Beautiful death animation for these towers, by the way. Tower of the Sultan going down over here. Once you start mixing in spears for Corvinus, though, this army should die. This was just kind of those moments where Corvinus had a very ranged-heavy composition, and Yuan Raiders are nearly invincible to ranged units. Once Spearmen come in, the second attack is just going to be deadlier. But now we're entering that danger zone of the Chinese. Yuan Raiders, Spearmen. These units are becoming premium troops now, especially when you look at the upgrades on the Yuan library. Roar of the Dragon is not something that Kaup has gotten. You're restricted to only 2 upgrades. He's gotten access to the Yuan Raiders, that was one of the techs, and he got the IO tech. I personally would have been intrigued by Horseman getting a Fire Lance, but it is what it is. He went with the Yuan Raiders. Now, Corvinus needs to be cautious about this. These guys are deadly. They do have a bonus against workers as well. So this unit is meant to just shred the economy of Corvinus, and this is what Kaup needs to do. Detach 20 of them, send them into the enemy eco, and it's going to be a pain to deal with. Camels coming in here to debuff the enemy. You see the Desert Raiders have that Camel Unease ability that the normal Camel Riders do as well. Crossbows won't really be doing much from the back line though. And as front line, this needs to hold off all these Yuan Raiders. You do have the Elite Spears from the Abbasids here though. Mamluk Bravery buff also in there on them. So a lot of these Yuan Raiders will just get shredded by the Spears. In fact, all of them will. And the infantry that was supporting this from Cal will just get taken down by the crossbows. This is kind of what I was referring to, seeing this very cavalry-heavy army here from Cal. One Spearman arrive here for the Ayyubids, it just becomes a challenge to fight against. We could see a switch into maybe Grenadiers or something. We have the Imperial Guard coming out, which is like a super premium cav unit. You see 51 base attack with 66 lance damage is ludicrous. This is, of course, with the Ming Dynasty buffs, but still, this is an extremely high-quality unit, and it's definitely something that's difficult to deal with unless you have a massive amount of Spearmen. Second wave coming in here. Now they are reaching the enemy eco, and it's just getting depressing here for Kaup. His army is going to be gone. His farming eco about to get hit. And it is just looking sad, very, very sad, very quickly. I love the idea of going heavy on the Yuan Raiders, but it just doesn't seem to be working, at least not consistently. It's kind of a unit that you want to be, as the name indicates, a raider with, not one that you want to fight frontline battles with. All right, folks. Now, I'm running out of stamina. And that means that I'm actually going to bring in someone to cast together with. KP is probably going to join me for a couple of casts, so let's get some games cast with KP.
Trying to convince as many players, because some players are just actually not opening their data at all. They're kind of refusing to give full transparency.
It's sad, right?
Yeah, it's outrageous. I've been molding. I don't want to give too many details away for people, but I've been begging more players to open up so we do not end up literally just all casting the same 2 people on repeat. How you doing anyway, Little?
I'm good. How are you, KP?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. I was refreshed when I saw that we've got a lot of extra faces appearing in the creator preview. Who were you just casting?
I just finished a game between Corvinus and Kaup. Had a bit of a glimpse on the Abbasid new siege towers, or the Ayyubids, I should say. Some juicy late-game shenanigans. But I've actually yet to cast some Byzantines. I've seen some Japanese, but Byzantines have been missing so far.
I've got something special for you then. Are you in my group?
Yes, I am.
All right. I've got an absolute juicer for you. It's Himayama, and it's Order of the Dragon versus Byzantine.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is actually beautiful.
Wait, we can't review a replay while in a group? Since when was that a thing?
We cannot do that, right? I don't think that was ever a thing.
Oh, am I imagining that? I guess it's just live games you can do that. Okay, so...
Wait, can you even do that for live games?
Yeah, you can do it for live games. I've had, like, I had to get into a game, didn't have someone add in. I think it was, shout out to, I think it was Ascalad, who just sat there while I cast the game. Because also, if someone brings you in the game and leaves, they drag you out if they brought you in. Yeah, with live games, it is a thing.
Okay. Nice. All right. Then you just need to let me know who I should look up.
Type in. So you want to type in. We don't type in IZI.MarineLord because he's hidden. But what we can do to get Marine Lord is type in 3D Anatand.
So it's a Marine Lord Anatand.
For a moment, like people are like, oh, it's B. No, we got Anatand though. We got one of the 3D members. And Himayama is quite a peculiar map.
Oh yeah, I just finished the Himayama game, so
it's really weird, right? Like, I quite like its design. I like how open it usually feels because there's a few small wood lines behind you, but everything else is forward. So let me know when you're in, and we can sync up on the time. I'm at 2 seconds.
Yeah, I am just now loading up, and let's see. I am stopped at 4 seconds.
Okay, let me catch up then. That's 2 seconds of content wasted, Litter. All right, okay. All right. Let's get ready to unpause in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gents, Welcome back to more of Sultan's Ascend action here in the Age of Empires 4 Sphere. It's the most exciting time of the year, especially when we get these faces clashing with new civs. Before I get to that, I got someone joining me on the mic. Lytical, how you feeling about the patch?
Hello. I'm hyped, KP. I've had the chance to look at a couple of these games. I've just finished casting. One of them being on this map, Himayama, a brand new map to the map pool. But I've yet to see either the Order of the Dragon or the Byzantines in action. So this is definitely a very intriguing game for us, KP. I don't know how much time you spent looking into the specifics of these civs, but definitely at least the Byzantines is one civ that gives us a lot of complexity and a lot of like unexplored potential. Whereas the Order of the Dragon is probably one of the more standard civilizations among the ones that came in with the DLC.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, like, you know, they had to keep it simple because the people in this kingdom are suffering with gigantism. They are literally bigger and clearly their brain is smaller. So this is more or less just HRE with less complexity, if that was even possible. But you are right about the Byzantines essentially requiring you to be able to have a degree in astrology, a degree in chemistry, and a degree in agriculture all at once. They're an interesting one, though. We already see something about the opening that's going to be like, what is this thing? The System is a pivotal element for the Byzantines because it juices up their economy early on and has these cool toggleable abilities. Do you want to try and pronounce all those three things?
Definitely. It's Conscriptio. Well, depends. Wait a second. Let's talk about which dialect are we speaking over here. I would say this is the Latin dialect.
Yes, it's a good thing you bring up dialect because Dialecticus is the second one.
Yeah, it's Dialecticus, Presidium, and probably Conscriptio is what you would say. My Latin is a little rusty. My Greek is better, I promise. So when we get to the Hierosyphon or Hierosyphon, I'll be better.
Maybe when if Age of Mythology comes out, you'll be sorted, right? Plenty of Greek in that. But it's interesting actually because right now you see a level over that, and these levels are increased by linking in other systems, which you do by connecting with aqueducts. This all costs stone, of course, but by raising that level, you're going to increase the buff effects such as the production rate with Conscriptio. The Dialecticus will increase the research rate, and the Praesidium will increase or rather reduce the damage you take. So they are worth kind of investing in. They get pretty nuts in the later game. It's kind of comparative to what the Delhi have with like military efficiency or supervision from the Chinese. And well, this I've seen a lot of in the games I've watched so Lytical. This Imperial Hippodrome, it's quite frankly broken.
It is a powerful landmark for certain. It's, it's very funny looking at this landmark and comparing how we felt about the School of Cavalry when the game was initially released. It's a stable style landmark. It's just, it does even more than the School of Cavalry did back when the game was released for the French.
Oh yeah, this thing is absolutely bonkers. You guys can't quite see it yet. Well, you do see the supply points here. We'll explain it a little bit when it's complete, because there's a few things to break down, actually. We've probably explained it whilst building up, because there's additional layers in this. But basically, what happens is you get these supply tickets, which will build up passively over time or when you kill units. And when you activate it, you take the supply ticket count, or supply point count, rather, times it by 1.5, and that's the amount of seconds this buff will last. And the buff, what it does, is it gives a 10% movement speed buff, +4 damage, and +2 HP regen per second to all of your cavalry globally. It is bonkers.
Now you want something better? This can be teamed up with what you get from the Cisterns, which is a military production buff, plus 20% even for the first level of water that you have in the Cisterns. And that just kind of combines into this crazy level of mass production.
Yeah. The bases will begin to look weird in the mid-game when you start to see the systems added in. By the way, you'd think it's really hard for the Byzantines to add these because it costs stone, right? But remember correctly, they get, I can't remember the percentages, they get part of the cost of their buildings back in stone. So they're able to quite casually scale into these additional buildings. I think it's something low like 10%, but it does add up very fast. Not fast enough for Marine Lord, though, as he's actually going to add more people in the stone line. We've been so focused on the Byzantines, we haven't mentioned that Memory is happening on the other side of the map. He built the Minework Palace.
All right. I mean, Order of the Dragon is all about quality, KP. They do have the Dragon Villagers, which, frankly, I think they were called Gilded Villagers back then. Apparently, they were renamed by I think the original website says Gilded Villagers.
Yeah, there's a wee missing detail from the update. These are meant to have been called gilded villagers. Dragon villagers genuinely makes them sound like something's going to breathe fire on you. So, for example, the spearman coming out, which has a lot of health and a lot of damage, you may notice. He has got gilded spearman on him. The reason he's got that damage and that health is if you check the racks, these units, this is the interesting, unique thing for the Dragon, their units are truly about quality. They take double the population of other Civs versions.
Exactly. It's so simple. You mentioned this at the beginning of this cast. It's as simple as it gets. You double the quality of a unit, and that's exactly what you have over here. Double the cost, double the quality as well, but it means that you have to be on point with your positioning because you just won't have those numbers. In fact, let's take a look at the villager count even for Anatan. You can see it's not really spectacular when you just look at his base real quick. Part of this is that the Dragon villagers, they also take more time to train, they are more expensive, but they also gather faster.
Yes, they gather, I believe it's 25%, and that affects the base rate, if I'm not mistaken. The reason also why you're seeing Mind Work instead of just flat out Archon is Archon only gives a 10% gather rate increase buff compared to the normal Archon, because otherwise it would be, quite frankly, ludicrous. Like, if you think about it, it's actually not far off the standardized, because you've got a 25% base rate increase, you got another 10% in, you're actually only 5% off what the normal HRE's gathering buff is, so it's pretty reasonable. And this is kind of greedy, but I respect it. It's very condensed from Anatan. Both of them are going for 2 TCs, but look at the difference in positioning here. Marine Lord understands that he's basically playing the new dawn of the French era. I know Jean's in this expansion, but really this is like the new French. So he gets to play Pocket Eco onto the map, while Anatan has to basically roleplay a turtle.
Yeah, we've seen this in Himeyama multiple times. Players expanding towards a deer that's always kind of in the middle. This time it's close to a boar as well, so that's double the value there for Marine Lord. Even was his base back at home, feels a little excessive given that Anatan has basically no mobility. In fact, he just has one single spearman to work with.
Yeah, and something I was kind of noticing is interesting here is no techs unique taken by Marine Lord so far. He stopped at 2 horsemen and seems content with this, but we're talking about this Hippodrome. If you have a look, they've got some very cool unique techs in there. So some of them we don't see too often. For example, Numeri, which increases your trample damage, hasn't been coming out of my game so far because, you know, you have to get into cataphracts. And I haven't seen trapezites yet, even though a 25% increase to your torch damage sounds insane. But what I have seen constantly is Expilatoris, which gives you extra damage on your horsemen versus villagers, and also pays you gold when you kill villagers. The reason I don't think he's done it here, though, is these dragon villagers have 15 extra health. Okay, make that a lot more now. They have 98 health. So it's much harder to snipe one after another compared to other civs.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's just difficult to snipe those, but I appreciate how you pronounced Expilatores. I was actually waiting to challenge you on the pronunciation of these, but you did a good job with that.
What have people been saying? Have they been called, like, Ispilatoros? Like, you know,
nope.
Give me some credit. Not all of us Brits are ignorant of culture.
I mean, I spent my morning looking up the pronunciation of these new things.
Okay, you know what? Like, we haven't even got to cast this if I want to so far, which is going to be a Japanese game, because I can tell you, like, I basically have everything, like, printed in my brain. I'm going to be a Japanese main, Lidical.
Oh, yeah, you will. I guess for the first 5 days. Anyway, we have an aqueduct, KP, and this is where it gets interesting, you see.
we do have it. Sorry, I just haven't seen one this long yet.
That's what she said.
I have, yeah, I've heard that a few times before. But this is just to one system. Sorry, you were going to say, like, he's trying to link up these systems, which is going to increase the water level on these, which will increase the buffs, right? But usually, I've seen people do compact bases, like 3 systems on one screen. It's not the most efficient for circle overlap, but it does mean that all the individual ones level up more cost efficiently.
Yeah, it's a very long aqueduct, and let's not forget, it's hard to defend a long aqueduct like this. Not right now, but in the long run, it's definitely a consideration to make. I guess this is a good time to talk about olive oil, though, KP, because this is something that we haven't yet had the chance to touch on.
No, because so far Marine Lord hasn't touched it. He hasn't actively seeked it. But the cool thing about the Byzantines is they have a 5th resource, or I like to say a 6th resource. Shout out to Lily, who always said the 5th resource is population, right? But the olive oil, they get 20% of the food gathered as olive oil. They don't lose 20% of their food, but it's like, you know, you get the 100% of food, and then by that calculation, 20% that becomes olive oil. And what you use this oil for is interesting, actually. There's a few different things. I believe it can be used in some techs I've seen. But the main thing is you're going to use it in the mercenary camp. We haven't seen the mercenary camps yet, and that's usually because the merc units cost about 400 or 500 olive oils to start unlocking. So we might be reaching that point very soon.
And notice how now he's linking up another cistern here. And with 3 cisterns connected, suddenly you have tier 3 of the water level. Means that you are getting a crazy level of production boost here. Archers being made in just 9 seconds. That's essentially just as good as what you would get from Chinese supervision.
It is bonkers. I mean, if you want to build horsemen right now, just like check the... yeah, he's still got the one in the south on Conscriptio, because there's nothing he wants to research right now. But like the horsemen take 14 seconds right now. And by the way, he did get that tech we were talking about. So he now does more damage specifically to villages. And if he kills them, he's going to receive 20 gold per kill.
It's only a +2 damage, but it's still valuable. Especially because the Order of the Dragon cannot really afford to lose vills.
Yeah, it's +2 damage, but then you're going to add in another +4 damage from Triumph. So
that's true.
It's kind of nuts. You're doing 17 damage per hit. This is going to get nerfed. Like, mark my words, people. Enjoy it while it lasts. I do not see this lasting long, because the crazy part isn't just the damage increase, isn't just the movement speed increase. It's the fact that you're able to heal even in combat. That +2 health regen, it isn't disabled by fighting.
Yeah, that's pretty bonkers. Anyway, Anatond is up to Castle Age. You know, good old friend Ragnitz Cathedral coming in here. No surprise so far. Relics are being walled in across the map, and we have a heavy archer commitment now from Marine Lord to this. Just look at this Gilded Spearman, though. Just look at how much punishment it's able to take compared to a regular Spearman.
And look how much punishment will continue to take, as it will never, ever, ever turn around. I don't think it can even get away at this pace, actually. It's one shot from death. Meanwhile, Southside, more archers there to mirror this. So not getting anything he wants. And the tough part is not only are you trying to do this typical HRE strat against a Civ that's taken mid-map control, remember that you also don't start with these prelates, right? So it's not like your normal HRE. If you check his TC, he couldn't even start building these before tech up.
Yeah, there's a mercenary house, though, so this is where we touch on the olive oil. You kind of highlighted you're getting that olive oil as a kind of subset of your food income, but you can use that to essentially get yourself specific mercenary contracts which unlock regional units. It looks like it's the West Europe one that Marine Lord went for, unlocking longbows for him in Feudal, Landsknechte in Castle, and then Streltsy in... actually, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
It's going to be like that, but you can also go for like Africa mercenaries. I think you can go for Eastern, which gives you like that Chinese Delhi style setup. So
yeah,
this gives you a lot of versatility.
There's like, for example, there's one contract that has Keshiks, elephants, and Gulums in it. I always forget what the other one does. There's 3 contracts in total. But another cool detail is if you check the trade posts, if you build near these trade posts, it's a bit random, but they can give you additional options. So the northern one would give you war elephants and Chuginu, and the southern one would give you camel archers and Mustafadi warriors. So yeah, there's quite a lot of cool things you can do here. And this very big phallic structure that's being built in Marine Lord's base isn't just him laying it on the table. This actually benefits the Merc play. The Golden Horn Tower spawns in units for free, mercenary units for free. And I think it's every, if I recall correctly, it's like every minute and a half, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, free units we always appreciate. And especially when they are units that you can normally not make. There's a Gilded Knight, by the way, once again, just roaming past. It's unreal how tanky these guys are.
Hey, mama fed me growing up, okay? You get the feeling this guy speaks very slowly. Like this, I warned you that these guys have gigantism, and this is the Exhibit A. Like the size of it.
I feel like it's like half the size of an elephant, which is just ludicrous to think about.
This is like, honestly, it's kind of comical just watching Spears chase him, because it's like, should you really be chasing him? Like, well, he's almost got the kill, and well, this guy is very strong. He's got the buffed up damage. It's insane. Like you mentioned elephants, it doesn't feel far off. 400 HP on this absolute Giga Chad, but there is a balance to this. This unit did cost him 480 resources.
Yeah, that's where healing comes into play. This is what the Order of the Dragon is all about. Very few super high quality units. It's one of those setups where you really can't afford to lose any of these. They're just so expensive.
Oh, and now we're going to see Mini-Me versus the full-sized him in the mid center here. 3 of those Gilded Knights turning up, and this feels like a fight that you think, oh, Marilo's got the spears to win, he's got the numbers. It does not matter. Even though you've vetted those spears up, the damage output of these Knights, their raw health is far too much, so Anatan will be able to yoink himself another relic.
Yeah, in the meantime, there is that one knight just roaming the map still. The lance it has is just absolutely enormous as well. It's just... This is the dream of the knight raiding players, the ones that love to just micro those small groups of knights.
Yes, and you know, the sad part for Marindel right now is he doesn't even get to use the unique Spearman of the Byzantines the way that you'd like to, right? Because they've got these cool abilities with the shield wall. The shield wall that would give them some interesting stat changes, right? Where they're able to defend more easily. But the problem is you can never use that because you're always just running for the high hills trying to find a target. So kind of a frustrating state of affairs to have. I'm hoping he's going to find a way to show it off, though, because it is a really cool tech, and his opponent is scaling into archers, and it is meant to help you specifically against ranged units.
Indeed, heavy on the limit right he is. Shield wall could be intriguing to look at, but it does reduce your mobility a lot, so
yes, and your attack speed. It's literally just so you can absorb damage, but it's the thought process here is like it's reducing it by 50%, if I remember correctly, is the amount you take. You're up against the Gilded Archers, which are going to hit you for 16 damage each. So if you can get the second layer, say these Lombos together, it's actually a really cool 1-2 punch. Oh man, this is so hard to gap close on though. One thing to keep in mind, by the way, that does make this a bit balanced is like you're watching these archers right now and you think, oh, that's stupid. You can't even gap close. Because this Civ gets so many cool things, that he weren't allowed to keep marching drills, so the infantry won't get faster than your standard infantry.
A bit of a trap play over here by Anatan. That army was caught in the corner for a moment.
Will be pushed away, though. It's really tough as well. I think one thing that's going to be very interesting as the meta develops with this Civ is that it's very hard to tell whether you took a good or bad exchange, right? Like, we can tell by destroyed value who's ahead here, but because you have to lose 2 or 3 units to kill 1, instantly Marineland's thought is like, oh, this is just a bad fight. Oh, this is always a bad fight. It's not necessarily that case, especially with the price tags we highlighted a lot of these units having.
Yeah, I think one thing to consider is that each of these units essentially count as 2 when it comes to resources, when it comes to population, but as I said, it's a little bit more difficult just to visually discern whether you took a good fight or a bad one.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of speculation about where the Order of the Dragon will be strongest, like a lot of focus around the mid-game and this cast stage timing. But I would warn that I think they actually have a lot of potency in the late game. Because one thing to think about is when you get to that 200 pop situation and you're just trying to exhaust your opponent, the second wave of the Order of the Dragon, it's going to kind of be more efficient at bulking up faster, right? Like, you're not going to have double the production buildings to reach that pop cap. Because, as you said, it's 2 per slot, right? So in that regard, I'd say, at least when you're popped, the military buildings feel a bit more efficient than other civs. This Archer Master is actually getting so spooky, though. 9 base damage. I say 9 to that. And there is a Cataphract in the mixer here. He's going for the Trample, but Trample's pretty effective against light units with not much health. Now, this unit is light, but with 145 health.
That is ridiculous. And it has a range of 5.5. It's not as bad as an archer is against longbows.
It has more health than a feudal age horseman. It almost has more health than veteran horsemen that it's fighting.
That is just unreal. And you see, when you look at the top of the screen for the military population, each of these units count as 2. But that's where it gets crazy, right? You have the same amount of units on the field, yet one of these armies is worth double than the other.
Literally, this is going to be melt on people's minds when we show it off in competitive. Like, imagine you look at that top bar and you're like, he's only got like 30 units. Why is he at 78 military pop? It's just the Order of the Dragon, baby. And right now, it looks like the Dragon impossible to slay. Marine Lord, he's trying to get into these Cataphracts occasionally, but they're very expensive, right? They're actually comparative to the Gilded Knights here. 180 food and 150 gold, and they take usually 40 seconds each. But luckily, due to that level 3 system, he is down to 25 seconds spawn time. But he's really lacking the cavalry, and that's got me a bit worried. He is going to lose access to these relics, which means it's going to be up for grabs for Anatan. Anatan, who has secured the sacred sites, and is looking like he's going to swap Marine Lord away as if he is a fly.
There's one Mangonel to try and salvage this, but then again, these units are so tanky. And the Knights just instantly evaporate that one Mangonel.
Yeah, it's rough as well, because I was going to say, even if you hit that with that Mango shot, usually you hit an Archer in this situation, they have, what, 80 health? It's 145, and Marine Lord has had enough of being pummeled. GG's going to get called. What do you guys think of these series? Do Byzantines look overwhelming, underwhelming, or are Order of the Dragon just completely ridiculous?
I feel like there is just no clear answer to that right now. It's just, it's hard to evaluate how good or bad these civilizations are based on just a handful of games, but you see the value in the Order of the Dragon. It seems a little clunky at the beginning, but it's all about you massing that one force and fighting decisive fights. It's not a civ where you can afford to lose small groups of units. It's all about just having that one decisive engagement with a very high quality army.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think what we can do, I said we'll switch off him in a little bit. I think for the moment we'll do like one more of Anatan versus Marine Lord, and then we'll explore the roster a bit, because there are a bunch of players on right now. By the way, big shout out to the players who are making that data private. My rant earlier stands. If you're a player, if you have access to this, I almost feel like it's an obligation, not just for us to create our content, but it's actually more so that the people can see these new civs in action. And, you know, shout out to the players that are showing that data, because really you're doing your part to help the game grow. Right? There's a lot of people that will probably be coming back, and before they're willing to open their wallet, they're going to want to see what they're paying for. So, do you want to see that Byzantines Order of the Dragon matchup in action again, or how about this? Actually, this sounds much cooler. African Waters, Japanese versus Ayubids.
Yeah, I was looking at that game myself. We can go for that.
Hell yeah, yeah. I love Africa. Honestly, I love African Waters. I mean, I'm not allowed, I don't know if we're usually allowed to say, like, it's a small thing. I remember there's an early iteration of this map that had fish accidentally spawning on land. And it was so, I'm upset because it got fixed. And that broke my heart, because it was almost a beautiful detail. You couldn't fish from it. You literally would just notice on the map, you're like, hold on a second.
Oh, I love this. This map reminds me of so many things. Wait a second. Actually,
are you,
yeah, I'm in.
Okay, are you at 2 seconds?
I'm at 4.
Okay, you always end up at 4. What's going on? Are you just like, are you one of those dual Pentium core processor users?
Yeah, maybe.
Donati wants to talk to you. All right, so what are you gonna say? Was there something you want to say before we start?
Yeah, this map is very reminiscent of an AoE2 map we had for some tournaments. It was like a very niche tournament map, but had this same setup of 2 pawns on the sides, kind of this battleground in the middle. Might even have had berries and a lot of food in the middle, if I'm not mistaken.
It does. It's insane. Should we get into it?
Yep.
All right. Let's get ready to unpause in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gents, welcome back to Sultan's Ascend, your one-stop shop this year to catch all the best action, because, let's be real, we've all been waiting for this. The Age of Empires 4 community is being treated to the biggest expansion in the history of the franchise. And we need some big names to go alongside it, don't we, Lidical? Marine Lord versus Anatan. And I'm not going to lie, right? No spoilers, because there's still plenty of other maps. African Waters is my favorite so far.
It looks like a crazy map, KP. It's definitely one of those maps where you have a lot of aggression to be expected, ton of food, and I feel like this map is just going to be so momentum-based. Being able to secure a dock or potentially having it denied, like it might happen to Marine Lord to the south.
Oh,
I mean, he could have committed.
He didn't want to, though. Very reluctant. And immediately Anatan says mine. Oh, that's so vicious. And dude, that's actually crazy, because what Anatan done there is both players technically get a pond of their own. You can see by the way they spawn, one player always spawns closer to a certain pond. Anatan aggro played this, and now Marine Lord just has nothing. Oh, that's rough. And the cheeky walls as well. Anatan, you're a git. I love it.
Yeah, that's a lovely position. He's going to have the dock up. Japanese, let's talk about that. Fishing boats coming at a cost of just 45 wood. Definitely one nice thing to look at, but I'm actually curious how this hybrid play is going to work out for Japanese, because I've seen some land-based Japanese games, but obviously hybrid maps play out very differently, especially given that Japanese often build their food eco around the Koka Township landmark? I'm always confusing the two Japanese landmarks. The
current-
farm one.
You know what it is. You're liking Koka because you get Shinobi out of it. You're thinking of the Kura storehouse. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yes, it spawns a farm every 45 seconds, and then when it's filled out, it gives you 45 wood every cycle. So yes, they definitely want to be on land. And I honestly, I'll be real. When I first saw that the only thing the Japanese got, a island nation, was cheaper fishing boats, I was like, this is dog water, absolutely worthless. But it has a ridiculous impact on your early game economy. I found myself with so much extra wood and so much extra food compared to other civs. So it's definitely not something to turn your nose up at. And oh man, I feel bad for Marine Lord. Like, this is never going to work. He now has to tech up before he can try to deny the dock at all.
This is very reminiscent to how you play HRE on a hybrid map. In HRE, you have enough wood income to be able to produce ships or fishing ships on 2 docks. Here with the Japanese, with discount, you probably could accomplish the same thing as well.
Yep, it's insane, right? Because now, like, I want you to think of the investment here. So Marine Lord built 2 spears. Let's just count the wood. Let's keep it simple. That was 40 wood. He's building a ram. That's 250 wood. So far, Anatan has built a dock for 150 wood. He's built 3 fishing boats now for 135 wood. They're a comparative cost, but the difference is that he's going to get food back in the meantime, right? And 1 ram isn't going to immediately break this wall. There will be opportunities for Anatan to repair. And I know what people are already going to ask. Why Marine Lord noob? Why he not chop through tree? You can't do it anymore. That's right. Walls have been updated, upgraded. They now link to surfaces more reliably, and you can't just chop around them because you can't walk over trees anymore.
Yes, indeed, you cannot walk on trees anymore, so those chop-through shenanigans will no longer work. A ram is out for Marine Lord, but it just takes too much time to take this down. And you see, Anatan seeing the ram, he's just going to sneak out, try to get another dock going. Marine Lord spots that. He's going to intercept the villager with some spears, though.
Just wall yourself in, right? Just don't come out. I wonder if he's thinking about it, actually. I mean, the reality is, you've idled one of his villagers, but Anatan has got fishing in the meantime, right? So he's kind of content with this to be the state of affairs. Now, his tech up is going to be a little bit slower, but his bank immediately afterwards should be a bit better, especially considering how slow 1 rank is. And we're getting it. It's the Koka Township. It's time for the Shinobi Warriors. Oh, dude, I love this thing so much. Have you had a chance to cast a game with these yet, Litter?
Nope, I always had the farm landmark come in.
Yeah, that's because everyone's a lame-o and needs to get into having fun. It's a new patch. It's time for meme builds. Ooh.
The villager is safe in a transport, by the way. He actually made a transport so that he can yoink the villager away.
Oh, this is sick. Now, Marine Lord has to know he's going there, right? He was just patrolling. He's going to try to redock. It's going to be a double dock out of Marine Lord. And keep in mind, there's nothing to stop. Yes, this. Anatan's just going to go back and now take the dock on the other side. So he'll still have his fishing even if he can't get back on this lake. And he can actually go for quite a few shenanigans here now, that transport ship you mentioned. Because he's going to go for the wall, but realistically, he could have just, like, cancelled the dock, got back in, and gone across the other side. Wait, Anatan? Oh, no. Oh, no.
This is... I think...
What? Just build it. Just build it.
Yeah,
Please,
he could have just force-built the whole thing.
Oh, I think Anatan is trying to be, like, really crafty here. He wants to keep them half-built so he can refund them. I think
Probably.
That's it.
I mean, there's not much left to be refunded once that ram comes in. Yeah, there it is. He cancelled it. Now jumps into the fish or the transport.
Okay, hear me out. This is all a distraction, Lidicore, because the Koka Township is here. It's... I don't know if you're a big Koka fan, but I quite like the Koka. Here comes the first Shinobi. Look at these things.
I mean, Pest is going to have to introduce new banned words on AGC broadcasts, I feel.
Do you not like Koka? This is the Koka sport. Look, he's dressed for running. These guys are strong, by the way. This is insane. Look at their damage. He only has 80 health, but he does 21 damage. An extra 5 against melee. And this is where things get funky. You have a bunch of abilities. One is that you can disguise yourself as an enemy villager. Another lets you set fire to buildings and disable their production. And the final one, how much StarCraft do you know, buddy? Are you familiar with Stalker Blink? Because this is basically a blink. He's able to teleport.
Oh yeah, here comes that one shinobi. But
Why did he come here? Like,
I don't know. Maybe he saw the
scout.
scout. Maybe he didn't know about the Dao coming in, so he just wanted to push away this one spearman and the scout. As you said,
Now, saying that, Anatan has actually got a dot going up on the south side, and because the army isn't here and the ram went north, Anatan is still going to be on this lake. What?
oh, he actually lit the dock on fire.
Oh, that's super sick! Yes, so remember when you set it on fire with sabotage, it does 200 damage, which is nuts on its own, across 30 seconds. But it also disables production for 30 seconds. It's super oppressive.
It is, and you see, he now did it to the dock to the north as well. It's on fire. And this is exactly how you want to use the shinobi. Target those outlying buildings that have no villagers nearby that can repair them.
You know what's crazy about this? If you get 2 shinobi, you can perma it. Like, you can perma it harder than Beastie. Look at the cooldowns here, right? It's literally 30 seconds, and then, it's off, right? But if you check the bar on the North Shinobi, he's already half that way to it again. So you just need to couple these together, and it's pretty cost-effective, actually. They're 60 food and 60 gold.
This is just going to be such an atrocious unit to play against. Just imagine you're trying to build up a trade shenanigans somewhere, feudal age, walled in, and then here comes 2 shinobi, burns down your market in the corner. That is just going to be so annoying to deal with if you use it well.
Now, something I haven't tested is whether this works on TCs. I can't imagine it doesn't, and the reason that's like crazy shenanigans, oh god, I can't believe I'm even letting people know about this. If someone go test it, because I haven't tested it yet, but I was just thinking, the reason this is really effective is like your disguise breaks when you like get in range of TC. No, actually it stays alive. So you get close to the TC, you use the sabotage, and then you use Shunshin to blink away. So you should just about get away because your opponent, unless they got like Godspeed insta reactions, shouldn't be able to snatch you. And you would have disabled villager production for 1.5 villages.
I could see that working out, although I feel like you don't want to lose your shinobi. I see more value in doing harassment, like let's say...
Oh, the blink! There you go, Shunshin. Oh, that's so smart, man. That's so crazy smart. So that's the blink we were talking about from Anatan. Now, the reason this is smart is he's playing against a Civ that is fishing now, right? So that means he has no food gathering underneath his TC. So there's no defense against this.
There's a second TC coming out. Now, I wonder if you can sabotage buildings that are under construction. That could be massive.
No, because well, you can set on fire to them, I think, but like the main thing is disabling the production. Now, this is a bit too ambitious. Oh my god. Anatan, you've got to respect the villagers. Now, the issue with these things is Shinobi, you can see they're incredibly squishy. No armor, 80 health. And their attack speed is really bad. Like, it's basically a villager. So, you really have to choose where you take your fights. You can't just dive 20 villages and expect it to end well. Unless, like, if you got 20 Shinobi, then sure.
You see Bagla having to patrol the coastline just to prevent the Shinobi from torching this down.
Okay, I said you need 20 villagers. Hear me out. What if it's 20 Shinobi dressed as 20 villagers? Okay, I'm looking forward to returning to Bronze League Legends because I know this is going to happen. Someone's just going to be sitting there and half of their base is going to be Shinobi and they won't even know.
That would be the most ludicrous thing ever. Yeah, imagine this. Just you're casually booming and then suddenly half of your eco turns out to be Shinobi.
Dude, it'd be so cool, though. I'm upset that Anatan hasn't used it yet. For those wondering what I'm talking about, there's this spy ability. It literally disguises you as an enemy villager. So, top tip, if you want to get the best value out of this super early and it's not a water map, what you want to do is you want to try and find wood lines where they break vision and disguise yourself before coming around the corner and just kind of shuffle in as if you were a lumberjack that belongs.
Floating gate coming in here. It looks like he's going to go in the Shinto priest direction.
Yes, this is pretty insane. So you can get this, or the alternative one allows you to get, I think it's Confucian priests, and that allow you to reduce the damage of enemy units by 50%. It's like the prelate buff, but instead of casting on your own troops, you cast on enemies. This, on the other hand, generates these Yorishiros that you can pick up with religious units, and when you drop them in buildings, they have unique effects. So for the farmhouses, for example, they'll give you 75 food a minute. Lumberjacks, the lumber camps rather will be 75 wood. Forges will be 75 gold. And then if you drop them in military buildings, they actually triple the production speed of that building. So, like, for example, this one archery range, if he garrisons inside it, he'll be pushing out Yumi Ashigaru every, I think it was 5 seconds, because I think it rounds up in that circumstance. Interesting we're seeing the Yari Ashigaru as well. Have you noted out about this unit?
Yeah, I kind of touched on that. It's actually a very fun unit to play around. It kind of reminds me to the direct opposite of a longbowman. It's cheap, it moves very fast. It does have a respectable range though as well.
Oh yeah, like it's 5-tower range, right? Now you need to be careful because this is the worst way to use it. Yari Ashigaru, it's the way I describe this Civ at this stage in the game when you chose to go things like Yari Ashigaru, it's Zerg. It's literally just playing Zerg because your units, your archers have less damage. They cost less, right? A normal archer costs 80 resources. These cost 65, and they build quicker than a normal archer by 2 seconds faster. But where this gets super sexy is if he can get the stone together. And I think Anatan is doing that because if he upgrades his TC, it buffs up the town center, makes it more tanky. It gives an aura around for farms, but the more important thing is that it allows you to build bannermen. And bannermen give a 15% damage buff to units of their type. And that's when Ashigaru can get really spicy. Now, he's still raiding with these shinobi, by the way.
I love it. I love how he is using them to just be oppressive, although they are getting cleaned up slow and steady. But yeah, you touched on this. A lot comes down to you being able to buff up those Yumi with your actual banner Yumi.
Yes. For ages, I kept calling them Banner Lords because I've been playing a bunch of Mountain Blade. But yeah, so the Bannermen, they're very interesting as well because it's a decent-sized aura. And if they ever die, they drop their banner on the ground for X seconds. And oh my god, it's a Peasant Rebellion. Shinobi are in there as well. That's really smart, by the way. The Shinobi are terrible damage absorbers, but they're great on their damage output. And they get bonus against the melee. So he essentially used these villages as a damage soak and then used the Shinobi as his glass cannon.
Yeah, that was a great use, and it's technically possible to focus down the Shinobi, but not when you have a fairly limited damage output like you had for this army for Marine Lord.
Check this down. Check what happens to this Ram. Look at his health bar. Shinobi are absolutely wild.
I'm more intrigued about Mounted Samurai, though, KP, because we are getting some of those as well.
Oh, baby. Yeah, no, these are exciting units. So they cost, if I remember correctly, it's a little bit more. Yeah, you pay an extra 10 gold, but for good reason. Highlight that little ability they've got, Deflective Armor. This is kind of a wild one. It blocks one attack. So I don't care how high the damage on that attack is, it will block it.
That's massive. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, this is nice, but, you know, in fights you take a lot of blows. But it actually is something that's very valuable when you have a large group of units. You suddenly just negate the first volley, and when you combine this with the fact that you have a Knight-style unit, that initial charge that you deliver is immensely devastating, and you barely take any damage out of it.
You know, where this is going to be exciting is, like, you wouldn't think you want to build, like, cavalry against Ayubids, for example, because they have the Camel Lancers, but they have a charge that builds up damage longer it charges, but it'll block that shot. Like, it'll just make that damage irrelevant or soak it with the initial deflect. So really important, I think, that you have kind of like fast attacking units with low damage in your comp if you see your opponent building Mounted Samurai. Keep in mind, by the way, the Japanese do have a variety of this that doesn't require a horse and thus requires a lot less resources. They have Samurai, and the Samurai have that deflect ability as well.
Yeah, here comes the Shinobi once again, and they're just... Oh, look at this. This one Mounted Samurai is doing a lot of damage to the south, but I actually love how the Shinobi are being used here. You kind of touched on this. It's the glass cannon type of a unit. You mix it into an army, it's actually very good to give you a cheap way to buff your damage output by a massive margin.
You'd be baffled what you can do with Shinobi. Like, it was a bit of a meme build, but shout out to Winston. I played a game against him as Jean d'Arc, where I was building Knights, and he literally just built Shinobi. And I was like, oh, this is easy. And then he'd just blink in, and all of them would stab my Knight. Remember, Knights, like, they get that melee damage bonus against them. So at that stage in the game, each of those Shinobi was doing 26 damage to my Knight. He just couldn't fight it. And by the way, these Shinobi have also been getting upgraded. They get affected by age up. So if you remember, the Wakizashi done 21 damage before. Now it does 25, I think it is, because he's got the melee text coming through. Yeah, so he's got the melee tech. Another thing to note, we didn't mention here with the Japanese, they get 4 melee upgrades. So if you have a look in his forge right now, he's got +3 melee damage to any of these bad boys. Like the Mount Samurai right now hit for 27 with their katana.
Yeah, they do cost stone though, which is definitely a difference compared to regular civs.
Yeah, but it's affordable because you get 25% of whatever you drop off in gold is stone and vice versa. So like they get, actually I think it's a little bit lower than 25%, but basically like, yeah, 20%. They basically, if you get a lot of stone, you get some gold and vice versa. It's pretty nice. Another thing, sorry, I'm blurting out loads of things, so I'm not absolute nerd on this. Have you met the Cambulance yet, Lidicor?
Oh, of course, dervishes. It's actually a unit that you can get in the campaigns as well, or the new campaigns those are. And the combat healing that you get out of the dervish is just ridiculous to me.
It's so strong. And like the fact that it works in combat is an AoE heal. So this unit, if it doesn't have this ability here, the mass heal, it'll individually heal. But if you have a huge front line, they're soaking, just walk in with that. If you hold a relic, even better. Now, for now, there is a fight going on, but it looks like Anatan, he gets him, not looking. Marine Lord loses the Mangonel straight away. And that is a lot of Yumi Ashigaru. Has he got a... Whoa, he hasn't even got abandonment yet. This is kind of... That's surprising out of Anatan. That feels like maybe a little bit of a whoopsie daisy in the build. It's really hard to remember, but if you click on the production buildings, you can see that on the right side, in each of them, you have these bannermen that you can build. Totally should have one here.
100%. Even then, it would be challenging to fight against Gulam. It's a heavily armored unit, after all, meant to counter the Yumi Ashigaru. And many of those Yumis took a big shot from that Mangonel, which is not just an ordinary Mangonel KP, it's a little more than that.
Oh yeah, it's Giga boosted up. Well, we can't talk about it right now, it's literally missing from the map. But the Mangos in this situation are really powerful, because remember we had a game earlier, just now, with the Oil of the Dragon, where we said Mangonels are terrible. Well, Yumi Ashigaru have less health, base health, so actually Mangonels are a better counter against them. And he doesn't have a siege workshop, so unless he wants to build one in the face of his opponent, it's not going to happen. So no more of those Manjaniques coming out. I guess we'll have to talk about him in the future. I don't think he even used the shot, right? The unique shot for it.
Nope, yeah, he just used the standard round shot.
Oh, this is cool, though. Like, in some ways, it's terrible against Yumi Ashigaru, but he spawned the Bedouin Swordsman to deal with the cavalry, because the Bedouin Swordsman get plus damage versus melee. It still feels like a losing battle for him, though, as the dives come in. Now, Marine Lord's eco is getting bigger. He has got that 2 TC play. But away from this, if I'm not mistaken, Anatan, yeah, he's got 3 of the relics already, and I think there is still the possibility for him to yoink more further.
Yeah, he's in the middle of farm transition, though. So now, it's actually surprising that given how much momentum he had, he didn't expend towards the berries and the hunt in the middle. He opts to go for a farm transition, and it's something that could slow him down quite a bit. And you look at his population, it's not so amazing anymore. In fact, quite the contrary.
No, he's padding it a little bit. So I know someone didn't address, people asked about the floating gate and the Yoroshiros. If I recall correctly, it got changed, so now it's capped at 4 Yoroshiro maximum. That still ends up being an extra 300 resource gain throughout the game. And the other thing that will allow him to kind of pad himself a bit here, if he fixes the way he's done his TCs, because this is something that players have to get used to. With the Japanese, you want to build your farms around your TCs, because as you upgrade them with these Daimyo levels, level 1 for 300 stone will give you a 25% increased gathering rate, and if you upgrade it again with 600 stone, it increases to a 50% boosted harvest rate. That's higher than the English.
All right, look at this, though. Town Center expanded over here. This is where we're getting the Daimyo Manor upgrade. A buff that's going to buff these Town Centers' firepower quite a bit.
Yeah, watch the health bar this. 2,500 HP, and I believe they should add in another 1,000. Yeah, boom. If you juice this all the way, by the way, if you go past 600 and do the 1,200 stone, it gets a rocket. It gets full Elon Musk, right? Like, it literally fires giant fireworks at enemies. Oh, that's a freebie on the ramp. A lot of damage done there. Still hasn't used the incendiary shots at all. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Is he using it?
Nope. He's using the standard weapon, I guess. Could get a good shot on the Yumi, though.
It's still just the kinetic, though. Not going for the big boy shot, and Mango now threatened. Wrap around here from Anatan. We'll get the final strike. These Yumi now able to kind of take over, but assisted. Check what's coming in here. It's time for the Onimusha. And I'm not talking about that amazing game on the PS2. This is your crossbow on a horse. Okay,
It's just a lot better
he's
than a
dead.
crossbow, though. Mounted, high mobility, has a good base attack as well. This is exactly what you want to have against the Gulam.
It's, you know, all those players that like Magadai and they're like, I don't play my Magadai anymore. They've been nerfed on the damage. Well, this is for you. You can't fire on the move, but you can fire him into oblivion. However, it looks like Anatan has been fired into the sun by the rising Ayabid Empire. GG's going to get called. Kind of crazy the way this one developed. We didn't have a chance to talk about the intricacies of these strategies because we were so busy talking about what the civs do. But the fact that he was still able to kind of recover that into a typical Ayabid game, something to kind of highlight we didn't talk about is that he did have the trade wing, if I remember correctly. So he had ways of kind of bolstering his eco by paying small trinkets of gold. So pretty cool little game there. What are your first thoughts on seeing those two civs, Litikor?
Oh, tough to say. I feel like I've seen Japanese before. I am hyped up about it. I think it's extremely unexplored yet. We've seen the farming landmark, we've seen the shinobi landmark being used as well at the same time. Ayobids, I think they deliver insane versatility, and that kind of applies to all of the new civs.
Okay.
You look at the mercenaries for the Byzantines, you look at the Ayobids being able to
I'm
get...
going to mute Litikor for a second because I feel rude for not saying... Oh, sorry, I didn't mute myself here. My bad. Continue, Litikor. I'm just shouting out people for their subs, but I am listening.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of my... that's probably my main chain of thought with the new civs, Ayobids and Japanese those are. It's just... I think they have a crazy amount of versatility, and it's going to be interesting to see them in competitive play.
Yes, no, I agree. There's a lot to still be explored. I think the Ayobids, it's kind of interesting because I think in some ways they play like a quicker... Oh, wait, I just realized literally my stream couldn't hear me. Right, try this the right way. Shout out to High Notes and M7 for the sub. Thank you very much. Now we can get into it. That's what I get for trying to divert, like split the two and not encroach. I'm a muppet. But the thing I was going to say about the Ayobids that's quite intriguing is they're kind of like... They feel like an accelerated Abbasids because... We didn't even get a chance to talk about the fact that there's a culture wing option in there that gets you a discount on the age up cost and the speed at which it techs up. So I've seen some pretty funky, fast castle builds where people just rush lancers that can be super effective. Out of all the civs, there's a lot of things to explore, right? But of the variant civs, I think the Ayobids might have the most intriguing depth of them all.
Certainly. The whole age up process being changed, having these two options for the wings, and obviously that was unlocking a lot of options for you. That's definitely an added level of diversity. And I kind of had the same feeling just looking at these variant civs. I didn't see much of a Jeanne d'Arc yet, but Order of the Dragon feels very standardish. It's not as specialized as some of these are. Jushi is kind of in between as well, but Ayobids is the civilization that gets a lot of these unique things for itself in early game. So it's something that we will see very frequently.
Absolutely. Right. Who do we want to watch now is what I'm wondering, actually.
Well, whoever you do, you'll probably have to do that alone because I'll be heading out.
Oh, okay. Well, no problem, my friend. It was good to have you on the mic nonetheless. But guys, if you haven't already, make sure you go across and subscribe to Litikor's YouTube channel. I believe he's going to be doing a bunch of uploading for the new content for the launch here. And I believe there's also going to be some fun things happening on the EGC channel this weekend.
Yes. Indeed. In fact, the show matches have been announced for the EGC weekend, so you can openly talk about them now.
Nice. So it was Beastie Marine Lord on Sunday, and it was Dumu versus who on Saturday? Dumu versus Mister. Dude, that's... Okay, yeah. You guys need to mark in your calendar. Make sure you tune in. What time is that happening, Litikor?
That's going to be 6 p.m. Central Europe, so noon Eastern. That is 17 GMT, actually. 2 hours after the regular start time, regular broadcast time.
Okay, mark it in your calendars, folks. I'll see you there for one of them. I'll be definitely watching the other one. But Litikor, I'll let you get to talking to your stream as you round out. Thank you very much for joining me in the mic. We'll have to do more of it in the future.
Sure. See you around.
See you, buddy.
All right, folks. I'm going to head out. I did not plan to have a long stream today, I'm not going to lie. In fact, I totally messed up the timings of the NDA. I thought it's tomorrow, so I just wanted to have this quick Q&A stream and then head out. Ended up doing some costs as well. Hopefully you enjoyed. In case you're rewatching this VOD, I appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I'll try to be consistent, putting out content from the new DLC as well over the course of the weekend. And yep, thank you so much for joining. I will see you next time.